We're going to open our Selectmen meeting Monday, August 22nd, 2016. Can we stand the Pledge Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do we have anyone here for public comment?
Mitchell Croner, 3 Cannon Hill Road Extension. I'm here very reluctantly tonight, frankly. Beautiful summer night. Really did not want to come here. Let me also say I appreciate what the 5 of you do for the town. I think a lot of people don't realize how difficult a job it is, how thankless a job, especially Bill Dunn, who has a business in town, and I guess, Dan, you're self-employed. So I've lived in town for 40 years and just decided, because of my law practice in town, it wasn't worth taking all the flack you people take. That being said, I'm here tonight not as an attorney, not representing any group. I don't live down on Lower Center Street. I have no agenda with Lower Center Street. I can understand both sides. It's a difficult problem, and that's not why I'm here. I'd like to read a statement first. On Monday, August 15th, 2016, the Town of Groveland Board of Selectmen held a duly posted public meeting pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A1, to be held in executive session. The public officer involved was the chairman of the Conservation Commission, who waived his right to the executive session and requested the Board of Selectmen conduct the meeting in public session. The Board of Selectmen chair then informed the audience of approximately 20 residents. There would be no discussion from members of the audience. A police officer was present to remove any member of the public who attempted to address the board relative to the scheduled hearing. The chairman of the board also stated he was not going to allow the meeting to be televised on Groveland TV, even though the custom and practice in the town of Groveland is that all meetings of the Board of Selectmen, as well as meetings of other town boards and committees, are to be televised on cable channel 9 Groveland TV. The Board of Selectmen was meeting in the usual public meeting room, which is equipped for televising public hearings in the town of Groveland. The chairman of the Cable TV Advisory Committee, the board that administers Groveland TV, was present, ready, and able to televise the public hearing, but Mr. Guilford was instructed by the chair of the Board of Selectmen not to televise the hearing. None of the other 4 members of the board who were present spoke up in favor of televising the meeting, even though it was clearly a meeting of the Board of Selectmen, just like any other meeting. There's more to my statement. What I'd like to do is I've drafted a complaint under the open meeting law to be filed with this board and the Attorney General's office. I'm not going to file it. I have 30 days under statute to file it from the date of last meeting. What I'd like to do to see if we can engage in some type of dialogue tonight, or if you want to consult with town council or take any other action, I can come back in 2 weeks and we can see if we can resolve this.
Thank you.
As part of the complaint form, you can ask for what you would like done, what you would like for a remedy. What action do you want the public body to take in response to your complaint? These are my 2 requests, which I think are reasonable. The Board of Selectmen votes and agrees that all future public meetings of the Board of Selectmen shall be televised and adopts this as an express and established policy of the board going forward. The Board of Selectmen agrees that the only future meetings of the board that not be televised are those that meet the legal standard for executive session. The vote to go into executive session shall be televised as part of the public meeting record. Number 2, the Board of Selectmen post an apology to the voters of the town of Groveland, signed by all 5 members of the board on the town website in a prominent place understood to be the home page under news and announcements for their failure to televise the public Board of Selectmen meeting of August 15th, 2016, and include their action under paragraph 1 herein. Now, I'll be perfectly honest. I'm not in the Attorney General's office. I'm a real estate lawyer. This is not my area of expertise. Perhaps you had the right not to order the meeting televised. I don't think you did. I think if the public had known the meeting was not going to be televised, we could have come prepared and done our own videotape, which would have been allowed under the open meeting law. And frankly, I'm just very disappointed that none of you spoke up stating that it was a public meeting. And even tonight, on your, maybe it was a typo, under correspondence, meetings from executive session 1 on August 15th, 2016. It was not executive session. Those meetings should be public. So I hope if you adopt those minutes tonight, you adopt them as public minutes and not as part of an executive session, which it wasn't.
Can I just comment on that? It actually has been revised in the final agenda.
Okay, all
I
right.
posted it before when I originally
Okay,
set the agenda.
I thought it might be a typo. Thank you, thank you.
I'll just ask a couple questions and we'll let it go at that. Do you know of a law that when you're having a public meeting that it has to be on camera? And that it has to be, is there a law somewhere that it's saying that we have to have it on camera?
I think that the question to the board would be, why did you choose not to televise that meeting?
Because I stated that evening, I'll state it again, because I didn't wanna have it all throughout the town and have nothing but gossip and mayhem. If it was a public hearing, we invited the public to come to the meeting, we weren't hiding anything, everyone sat here in the room, we all had the conversation. As you saw that evening, there was people they were already screaming and yelling and getting out of their chair and everything. It would have been nothing but an hour and a half of conversation back and forth, and they were already mad. They had it set in their head that we were out to get Mike. They had it set in their head. And that's the way it came across to me, and I thought this was the best way to handle the meeting. That was the way to handle the meeting.
There's
In an executive session, you wouldn't have heard anything.
There's two issues here. One, as the chair, under the open meeting law, you have the right not to allow audience participation. It's not encouraged by the Attorney General, but under statute,
So,
that was your prerogative,
right,
which
so
you
I
did.
didn't break a law.
Right, you were
Okay,
correct.
I feel bad, I feel good.
Right,
I didn't
so
break the law, thank you.
my narrow issue on the complaint is that the hearing, once it became a public hearing, it should have been televised. There's nothing to prevent you from now saying, turn off that camera, I don't want anyone to hear what Mitch Croner is saying. It's no different.
Well, usually when you have an executive session, I think Mike just alluded to it, usually it's behind closed doors, it's an executive session. The chair of the conservation that evening decided he wanted to have it in public. Maybe at that point in time, we should have a new policy or something in place. They should now say, do they want the cameras on or off, I guess. I mean, it's still the chairman's prerogative to have it on or off, but I don't think I broke a law, and I did it for a reason. I was open and honest about why I did it for that reason, because I didn't want mayhem. I wanted to try and get it done. I knew where I was going with that meeting. I wasn't gonna sit there and pick on Mike or try to weigh us against him. I was just trying to show we had a complaint. We took care, we all talked about it like grown-ups, and that, at the end of it, we come up with something, that's all.
And the voters should have been able to see on TV how this board treats its volunteers. That meeting could have been handled, didn't need to go into executive session. In my opinion, and I didn't want to get into this, in my opinion, all that needed to be done was a memo from Denise or from town council stating, in the future, this is how we want quorums handled. This is how town council recommends it. You didn't need to, when you see executive session against a public official, what do you think, Bill? Someone stealing money? Someone did
Do you think I should
something?
have publicized
So you're
it?
speculating.
What's that?
If I
You're
public,
speculating based on what you think the meeting's about, not what it's actually about.
So why did that rise to the level of an executive session in the first place?
Because the subject matter, if it could be seen as a discipline of a public figure, there's a reputation at stake. So in the interest of the person coming before us, we are on the side of them, and that's the reason. It protects the public official that is being potentially being accused of saying not having a quorum and still proceeding with the meeting. That's potentially damaging to somebody's reputation. So for that reason, it met the threshold for having an executive session. It's the person's prerogative if they want to waive that, and ultimately that occurred. But that's an issue for the person, and I think the spirit of the law on that, Mitch, is that you go, it may amount to nothing, but you err on the side of caution in terms of protecting that public official's reputation. Whenever there's an allegation, the allegation could have tremendous weight or it could have zero weight.
No, the issue is why you mean Mike was supposed to say he wanted it televised? One of us was supposed to go over to Tracy and say, televise it, even though you said no? I think Tracy had the right to televise it. The statute says the meeting, as long as you inform, I could have recorded it, anyone, we could have brought a video camera.
We can argue this all night, back and forth. I didn't break the law. I did what I did. I did it for a reason. I discussed the reason why I did it. And furthermore, it was on Facebook prior to that meeting. There was gonna be a meeting here. It was on Facebook. There was I was getting phone calls during the week from people calling me about this meeting. So I was trying to stop the mayhem that was gonna happen, and that's all I was doing.
I thought you handled it I thought the board handled it well, and Mike can't. I don't know what you're talking about mayhem.
To go back to your, people stand up in the audience yelling out and.
Well, because you wouldn't televise it.
Mitch, people are laughing and they come in here with preconceived notions about what the board was gonna do or not do, okay? And as far as open meeting law, my understanding of it is, I'm a lawyer like you, and I'm not an expert in municipal law. I'm learning it as I go here.
Right.
All right? But my understanding of the open meeting law is you have to give notice, and there's a minimum requirement on that. There's no maximum on it. You could broadcast it to the world, but there's a minimum threshold. It has to be posted, and with the police department, it has to be, right? It has to, if we put it up on the cork board, so
48 hours.
the people of the town haven't got notice. We could have filled the room with 100 people and said, you know what, maybe we gotta move the location. So, there wasn't any violation of open meeting law, and I know of no statute that requires mandatory cable broadcasting of any meeting. I mean,
All right, so
if the cable went down because there was a thunderstorm outside, we'd have to stop the meeting and continue it to another session.
the point is.
No, that would happen,
That's different. The point is, you instructed Tracy not to televise the meeting.
It wasn't a regular Board of Selectmen meeting, it was an executive session meeting.
It
wasn't
was
a
not
regular-
executive session. It was a special meeting.
Okay, that wasn't a regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
So you're only gonna televise regular meetings? Is that the
Just saying that-
policy?
I'm not saying what I'm gonna televise and what I'm not. I'm telling you why I did it. I'm not gonna defend myself why I did it. I did it because of the publicity and what have you. That's the only reason I did it. I wasn't trying to hide something, but let me go back to a step. You said to me a minute ago, or to the board a minute ago, why didn't, like, me and Mike discuss this, or an email or something, go back and forth? I cannot have three of these board members talk to me outside a meeting. You know what I'm saying? We have a complaint. We can't sit there. I can't go and, as you know, outside the town hall and discuss a complaint.
No,
So that's why you end up having an executive session, and we said to Mike, do you want it in the private or do you want it in the public? That was his decision. He had the right, he decided how he wanted it. And from there on end, I mean, maybe they were all mad because, personally, I don't think they were mad because I wasn't letting it be televised. I think they were mad because they had a procedure in their head that they thought we were gonna pick on Mike. And that's what they're all mad about. Because it was all the people from Lower Center Street. It was all certain people, group of people here. There was a certain group of people. I knew who they were, and I wasn't going to let it get out of control. And I think I held it the way I did. I don't feel bad about it, and I'm not going to backblade any more on it. And if it happened again, I'd do it the same way. And if they want to remove me as a chair for doing that kind of stuff, that's all well and good. I don't think it got out of control, and that's it. Go ahead.
I support the chair. I think he's in the boundaries of the law, and chairman has discretion to run the meeting. I don't think any of us on the board had any dialogue with cable committee. I certainly didn't. Chairman may have requested that, but that's his discretion.
one of the five of you could have spoken up and said, this should be televised. I understand, I'm in agreement with you, you certainly have the right not to allow the public to speak. I think you're mixing two issues. The issue is, once it was a public hearing, it should have been televised. I think you established a dangerous precedent. It sounds like you don't want to take up my two suggestions, so I'll file it. I'm going to file it as a formal complaint. You have 30 days. The Attorney General might agree with you, maybe not.
Let me ask you a question. If that was televised, and the people that stood up in the hall were outraged they were, do you think that would have been good for the public to watch? The way they were outraged, and it wasn't only because it wasn't televised, it was, we were having conversation, they kept blurting things out. Do you think that would have been good for the public to watch? I don't think it would have.
So you believe in censorship then?
I believe in, we shouldn't sit there and put on TV a consensus meeting or whatever. I think we should be trying to show the town people, we're all working together, we're doing things for the good of the public, for the good of the town, and that's it. I don't think we should be sitting there causing fights and argument and what have you. And I thought the night we left with Mike, I thought we all left pretty happy and everything was okay.
Like I said, Bill, I think you ran a good meeting.
Right.
I think all 5 of you, I'm not questioning how the meeting was handled.
Yeah.
I'm questioning the fact that you've employed censorship and trying to keep things away from the voters you televise all your public hearings. For whatever reason, that night you chose not to televise it. I think it's a dangerous precedent.
No, because we've done interviews with candidates for heads of departments that weren't interviewed, or that weren't televised. Are you telling us we were wrong to do that too?
That's different, isn't it?
Why is that different? This was gonna be an executive session behind closed doors if Mike agreed to that.
Right, and then I wouldn't be here.
So because he wanted it in public and we had it in this room, you think it should be televised?
Yes.
And I think what we should
What
do.
did you do afterwards? When you had your meeting about the land, you went into another room. No question.
There was no candidate to talk, there was nobody to talk to about it. other
You went
than-
in executive session to discuss the land.
We weren't discussing somebody's procedural discussions on.
Once he waives it, it's a public hearing, and we'll let the Attorney General, we're not getting anywhere, so I don't want to
Okay.
take up your time. I do have one other thing I want to mention, though, unrelated.
I should have narrow. I don't think that the board collectively stopped the cameraman from coming in here. So I think your narrow issue is whether or not the chairman of the Board of Selectmen has discretion.
Now, one of you, Dan, you could have spoke up and said, Bill, it's public now, let's have Tracy televise it. No, none of you spoke up.
I'm 1 out of 5.
Right.
I
You don't have to do everything by consensus.
I believe that the chairman has discretion to
We'll
run
see.
the meetings.
We'll see.
He has
We'll see.
He sets the agenda. They get posted. I have no involvement with that other than, hey, Bill, can you throw this on the agenda? But the function of the chairman is the function of the chairman. He maintains it. If he doesn't want me to speak, he can ask me not to speak. He maintains order in the meetings. We've seen that play out.
Can I ask you a simple question?
Yes,
I'll let you talk.
yes.
Let me ask
All
you a
right?
simple question.
So that's, someone has to be in charge.
By the public not hearing that, and this is for me only.
Yeah.
For the public not being out in the public eye, what harm do you think it did? Just so it helps me in the future make my decision. What harm do you think by the public not seeing that publicly?
It gives the impression that the board wants to engage in secrecy,
Okay,
that the board wants to engage in intimidation,
okay.
and not allowing the meeting. I mean, I could have gone over to Tracy and said, Tracy, I think you have the right to televise it.
Right.
Now, Dwight McDonald's here on a paid detail, which is another question, I guess, where we got the money for that, but we'll save that for another day. I wasn't gonna create a scene. I respect you as chair.
Right.
And whatever my legal position was,
Right.
there was
And
too
may-
much tension in that room
Yeah.
to question you.
Right.
What I'm questioning, is simple, is again, it's a narrow issue. Can you pick and choose which meetings
Right.
that are public? Maybe you can.
Right. And Mitch, and I respect what you just told me. I respect it 100%. Now respect what I'm gonna tell you back. I was trying to protect Mike in a way, protect the town people in a way, and that's my end. So there's two sides to every your story. My side is I was trying to protect people, protect Mike, and not make this into a bigger case than it needed to be. So there's two ways to look at it. You're looking at it your way, I'm looking at it my way, and like you said, we're not getting anywhere with it. I'm not trying to be wise. I respect you coming in and what have you. The people are now watching this on TV. They can understand what we're talking about. Nothing's being held, hidden, or anything else. So, I mean, if that's the route we gotta go, I think, if anything, maybe we should do from now on, if it gets to that point, and we're having a public, they decide they wanna go into public session, then they should have the right to sit there and say they want it videoed or not. Simple as that. That's an easy fix, okay? If you come in here, Mrs. Jones, and you're gonna have a public, do you want it videoed or not? And then go from there. I mean, if she says she does, and,
Okay.
all right?
All right, the other thing,
Ed wanted to say one thing.
Well,
He's
just
been-
to-
Can I ask a
Just to-
question?
wait,
just
Ed
to
might
correct-
talk.
Yeah.
Just to correct one of the statements that you made, you said that the people in attendance were upset because it wasn't on TV. You know that's not a correct statement. They were upset because the chairman was invoking the open meeting law description where he doesn't have to allow participation by members of the public. That's why they were upset, not the fact that it wasn't on TV.
all right, I'll change that, Ed. I was upset. I'm not a Center Street person. I was upset because it wasn't
Okay,
televised.
so one person was upset because it wasn't on TV.
Okay,
Okay,
all right.
good,
Okay?
all right.
All right, Dan.
And,
Okay, I'm sorry.
strike that.
Okay,
Go ahead.
you all right?
Well,
Yeah.
Mike's here. Did you want it televised? I mean, does it matter? Is that even a relevant point? I mean, if you asked for it to be televised, I might have taken pause. But other than that, and I thought, like I said, that, you know, and the other thing is, the chairman has discretion as to who's gonna take public comment from it and whatnot, and who's gonna address the board. And I think that's a good thing, because the narrow issue of what we were questioning, and again, you can look the law up on it, and I did some reading on it, and there's a battleground on what a quorum is. I mean, you can argue in two directions on whether or not it's a board, a number, quorum based on what was appointed in our bylaws, or whether or not it's how many existing members you have. So, to me, there was a narrow legal issue about whether or not meetings were held with or without quorums. That didn't need a popularity contest from the people from Lower Center Street. It did not. It's almost like, you've probably been to court. Judges don't like the parade of witnesses. Well, you have 20 witnesses all saying the same thing, and then the other guy only shows up with one. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'll even, I mean, I don't want to get into Center Street, but I know there's a lot of support
But-
against the neighbors on, some people feel they're being,
But Bill handled
two
it.
neighbors, but that's not why I'm here.
I think Bill handled it
All right,
professionally,
all
and he
right.
made a judgment call on it. I don't think it was censorship.
All right, my second point. Your agenda item, ZBA Chair's request to appoint William Dunn to the zoning board. I think it's a very dangerous precedent when we get the chairman of the ZBA requesting the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to be on his board. I know Dan is on the board, I know Mike Wood has been on the zoning board.
Bill
with-
was on the zoning board.
Right, with the blessing, and Bill was on the board. I know we have a shortage of volunteers. I have my own reasons for that, which I won't get into. For instance, Bill's always talking about checks and balances. Well, the five of you know, well, maybe not Bill O'Neill, because he's new, that you have spent $30,000 of our money, taxpayers' money, fighting 441 Main Street, the Estee property. This has been going on for a couple of years. The selectmen obviously had to approve the zoning board wanting to continue to fight with Mr. Harper over this, who happens to be your second highest taxpayer in town, just for instance. And I'm not here representing Mr. Harper. I'm just saying I think it's a dangerous precedent when now two of your members of the zoning board, one the chair and Dan, are now going to be on the zoning board, which needs the blessing of the Board of Selectmen to engage in litigation. I mean, as a lawyer, hey, great, you want to pay Copeland and Page $185 an hour? I'm all for lawyers making money. I just don't want it coming out of my tax dollars. That's all I have to say about that. I hope you don't take the appointment, Bill. I think it's a dangerous precedent. Whether it rises to the level of conflict of interest, I don't know. But when a Board of Appeals, and frankly, you have the chairman of the Zone of Appeals, and I can't speak to the other members, and I know you can't say too much because it's in litigation, but it certainly appears, I've looked at the court dockets, certainly appears that the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals is the driving force, for whatever reason, behind this lawsuit that has cost the town $30,000. That's all I have to say about that.
I'm not gonna comment on the case there, for obvious reasons, but, you mentioned my name and being on both, and I want the people to know that I contacted state ethics. They have a hotline, you talk to an attorney, if they need to do research, they do research. I cleared it with state ethics, my being on the Board of Selectmen and the Zoning Board of Appeals. Once I got elected to the Board of Selectmen, if that was a conflict, I would have resigned from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And again, it's quasi judiciary over there, so that it's independent and when making decisions. So, you know, and I viewed that as, it doesn't matter who comes before that board, the law applies. And again, laws don't operate in a vacuum, you have to apply facts to laws. But, you know, that's how I've proceeded with that spot. Having two people on there, I think before we had Mike Wood, Bill was on there, I think he was on there at the same time as the Board of Selectmen. I think it's permitted, but I see your point about, you know, reach it out. But again, we need people from the public or we're not gonna have a quorum. So again, in the absence of a quorum and the necessity to fulfill basically carry out the business of the town, I think the fallback position is that the Board of Selectmen fill the shoes of some of the vacancies in the boards, and not only the ZBA, but other boards. If there wasn't a quorum on the Conservation Board, it may work the same way. There's an issue there in that they have a stipend. I've already had a dialogue with state ethics on, you know, I was kicking around the idea of maybe being on conservation. I know that would make a few people happy. But because they get a stipend and we vote on a budget, that ratchets it up and it causes a little bit more of a mess. But there's ways that you can recuse yourself from budgetary line items and voting on a stipend for a particular board or something like that. So it's an area of law, traps for the wary, and I think if what needs to be done is it gets cleared by state ethics, it would only be temporary anyways. What do you suggest in the absence of not having a quorum? We're gonna continue applications indefinitely until we meet the quorum requirement. So I throw that out to you. You're a real estate lawyer.
Well, Mr. McCabe resigned a few weeks ago.
What do we do?
Mr. McCabe resigned a few weeks ago. I haven't seen anything other than the general blurb on the town website. I know they put something on about water commissioner, but I didn't see anything looking for Board of Appeals members. As you know, you can have a meeting with 4 people. It's up to the applicant if they want to proceed or not.
And then it's unanimous, so there's some
So
pitfalls to that, too.
Right, but you need, whether you need 4 votes or 4 out of 5, in my experience, is not a whole lot of difference with the supermajority required. I will say this, Bill, I meant to say this. You're pro-business. You are pro-business. My complaint about the zoning board for years, including Mr. Wakefield, is that he is anti-business, and the zoning board discourages. I've turned away numerous businesses from this town. I don't like to do it. We need a commercial. I think Ed Watson said last meeting, you need a commercial tax base. It's just, this is an anti-business town. When I tell people we have a taxpayer paying over $100,000 in real estate taxes, and the thanks he gets is, it gets dragged through litigation. That case should have been settled. I don't know why it hasn't. I know you can't comment. But part of me says maybe Bill Dunn would be good on that board because he is pro-business. But I'm concerned
I hear you.
with Mr. Wakefield, when Mr. Wakefield
Point of order, Mr.
requests.
Chairman.
Yeah, point of order.
Point of order.
Go ahead.
Mr. Wakefield's not here to defend himself. I don't think there should be any comments addressed about him like that. I don't think it's proper.
Okay.
All right. All I was responding to was the agenda that said ZBA's chair's request to appoint Mr. Dunn.
Okay.
I'll leave it at
Hold
that.
on a minute. Denise wanted to say one thing and then Mike.
Yeah, no, Mitch, I just wanted to make a statement on behalf of your complaint. So just one thing to note is that Channel 9 is a government access channel. It is not a public access channel. As the licensing authority who signs the Comcast license, they actually have full control over what is broadcast on that channel. So I believe you are right that someone has the right to videotape a meeting, but not televise it. And I'll do whatever the board would like, but as the government access channel, they technically can control what is shown on that. And you can actually, I believe it was like the Mass Department of Telecommunications that
well-
made that ruling several years ago.
Okay, Mike, and then that
Dan
will be it.
touched on a couple of points that I was gonna make. So in absence of a quorum, do you suggest that we don't proceed with government business? For like the ZBA or any other commissions that we have? We have to have the town business
Correct.
going, right?
Correct.
So I know you're not in favor of one board member being appointed to the ZBA from this board. And I see your point. My suggestion, since we haven't voted on that, my suggestion to Bill was going to be, why don't we share in those duties? It wouldn't be efficient, and we'd all have to learn what happened on the previous meetings, but, you know, maybe in the next month, I take a meeting, and the following month, Dan will take a meeting, and the following month, Bill will take a meeting, until we do get people volunteering for these boards. It's not just the ZBA board that's hurting, there's other boards that are missing, volunteers as well.
Unfortunately, you can't do that with the ZBA, because if you miss a meeting,
Exactly.
you can't vote. I actually did do a lot of work in Georgetown. There's a rule called the Mullen Rule
Yep.
that I talked to Denise about adopting, whereby if you miss a meeting, you can watch it on videotape. You're allowed to miss one meeting.
Right.
So that's just, so I mean, I understand your suggestion, Mike. That would probably work like for a rec committee or some of the other, unfortunately for a meeting, especially the ZBA where they conduct hearings.
Right, so we would have to appoint either one of
Right,
ourselves,
right.
or if someone volunteered to come forward and wanted to be on it, then obviously that would be better, but
Right.
we have to find a way to continue the business of the town.
I understand that.
All right, I
Okay.
think we beat this enough.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
All right, thanks.
Anyone else for public comment?
Tracy Guilford, 4 Abbott Circle, Chairperson of the Cable Advisory Board. I just want to make it clear, I am not part of this complaint. I was questioned by a number of people why the meeting was not televised, and I just told them that at the request of the Chairperson of the Board of Selectmen, it was not. I personally think, you know, I like Mitch, and I respect Mitch, respect the Board of Selectmen for what they're doing, but I gotta, you know, just personally say, I think the complaint is using a sledgehammer when we need a finishing hammer. I think because this is the first time that I've dealt with this problem, I would prefer getting information on what other towns and cities are doing, or finding from our attorney, you know, what is legal or not, you know, so that, you know, I'm not looking to fry anyone. I just, you know, like everyone else, am looking to do the right thing under the law.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment? Okay, Mike, can you approve the warrants?
I could read them.
Read them. Read them, we'll approve them.
I'll read them. Motion to approve payroll warrant number 17-07 in the amount of $91,396.81.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Motion to approve deduction warrant number 17-05 in the amount of $31,835.31.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Motion to approve bill warrant number 17-06 in the amount of $992,022.67.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I got a question. What does that actually cover? That's a big number.
So that includes, it's actually two things. That includes the Pentucket monthly.
Yep.
And then on the prior warrant, our Whittier assessment was $276,000, and the check actually got destroyed when we printed it. So we voided it on a separate warrant and had to reissue it. So that includes a reissue of the prior check. But it's only those two.
All in favor?
Yep.
Okay.
Motion to approve bill warrants number 17-07 in the amount of $407,896.95.
Second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
Discussion.
Go ahead.
What does that one cover?
That's our regular accounts
Regular.
payable warrant for all other
Big numbers, wanna make
business.
sure.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor? Okay. So moving forward a little bit late, I see Claire's here. Claire was the volunteer of the month, and I know Bill O'Neill, I have given you the docket to, give to Claire. I don't know if you wanna, read it, Bill, for her?
Sure. On behalf of the town and the Board of Selectmen, we would like to present this to Claire Walsh for Volunteer of the Month of July 2016. It states, presented to Claire Walsh for tireless enthusiasm, dedication, and hard work in her volunteer efforts for the town of Groveland. Claire organizes programs for the community and works hard to repair and rebuild town resources. Volunteers do necessarily have the time, they have the heart. Thank you for all you do for the town of Groveland to make a better place. On behalf of the town and residents, we give you the community's heartfelt thanks. Oh, absolutely.
Let me get a picture. All of us to do, just go.
You should all.
Everybody?
Thank you so much. Hopefully. Thank you again.
Thank you, Claire.
Nice job, Claire.
Are these yours?
Yeah, nothing but photo.
I should just leave it home. Okay. All right, so moving forward, we have the Recreation Committee update on the Pines project.
Good evening.
Mike, how you doing?
Good, how you doing?
Good.
So, Mike Houghton, Valley Farm. So, last time we met, we talked about doing an as-is plan. So we had civil design come in, do the re-layout of the drawings, so to see where we are now compared to what was originally scoped. And then I met with them a few times to go over it. So what we came up with was that the fields that we're most focused on right now, which is softball field B and the utility field, so down closest to where the existing softball field is, that the grades on those are actually very close to what was originally spec'd, so that's good news. The issue with those with the softball field that we have is that we've got a drainage pipe in the field area that is gonna need to be moved, because it could be a hazard for someone tripping over or falling on it with a metal grate. And then the retaining pond area that's designed to, filter the water out in the back of the field area is larger than what was originally spec'd. So it's not two spec the full length, and it's wider than it is, so it encroaches on the field a bit. So the recommendation was that get changed to be done properly. So we had him turn the field around, so we've got home plate now backing up to the parking lot, which makes most sense for, parents, spectators, et cetera, so not hiking across to where home plate will be. So they've included that in the drawing, and I'm happy to leave a copy with you guys. And then, he looked at everything else, or they looked at everything else, and they came back with the fact that the tennis courts are pretty close. The grading is rough, but it's pretty close. The other softball field that we're not touching right now, that was 2 feet lower than what was originally spec'd, so 2 feet more soil, I guess you could say, was taken from there. And then the hill is what he called a 2-to-1 pitch rather than a 3-to-1 pitch. And he said, so the hill is about 30 feet extra of soil was taken out of that than was originally scoped. So the danger of that comes into heavy rain, not that we've seen that, right? So, but if that were to be the case, you could end up with erosion on that down into the drainage area or down into the field areas. So, those are the two things that they called out. But from the actual now moving forward with the field elements, we can, we now know that we're good on layouts for those. So then the second point is the well. Where do we stand with that, right? So I know it's been a real crazy summer for the well guys because of a lot of problems with wells. So I finally got a hold, and we've talked with Rich and one of the well providers, and he gave some suggestions, recommendations for a couple things. So one, he said where the stake is located right now, he said you could drill there. He said you can get equipment in there. It's on a slight hill, so he said it'd be a little bit difficult. You have to bring in a little bit different equipment, but he said you may want to consider moving it, even if it's behind the playground. So it's right now, if you remember where the drawing is, where the rough tennis courts are, and the playground, there's that slight slope down to it. It's right there right now, but he said if that were to get all built out, and there was ever a problem in the future with the well, getting equipment in there would be really hard to do. You'd probably end up having to get a crane in there to do the work. So he said you may want to consider putting it behind the playground and slightly closer to where the fields are going to be that you're going to water, so that, if there's a problem in the future, you'll be able to get at it. So I thought that was a decent suggestion. He also made a couple recommendations for, how we might want to change some of the verbiage. So I got to work with Denise to get that finalized and figure out, what do we need to do from here on that piece. So, and then the last update we have on that is just, I have met with sprinkler system companies, and they said, until they know the well and the output of the well, there's really nothing they can do for us on that. And I did talk to a couple landscaping companies, so they're gonna give me some rough elements, so I can at least start to scope out, we can put the specs together for that. But that has to go hand in hand, of course, with the piping.
Right.
Can I just ask a question? And actually, Mike, since you're here, when I first started, it was brought up about removing the extra trees and moving the hill back, and there was something with that retainage, that there was some issue with the river. Do you remember that? So maybe you can talk about, because I don't know why it's bigger than, but I know that that was an issue when I first came here. And it was something about conservation and the way, because the river and the extra drainage had to go down. So maybe if there's some information you had on that. Because I know there is a reason for that. I
Okay.
just don't know what specifically.
Yes. We had I had met with Bob Araceli at Highway and the consultant that he had working on it. We spoke about some of the drainage coming off that hill and protecting water that was eroding the bank of the river. And so Bob had placed some large riprap along the bank, but part of our agreement was to have some kind of retention area about 200 feet or so away from the bank of the river. So that was the reason for that, because what happens, the water just naturally drains down towards the river, and when it gets on a heavy rainstorm, it tends to want to erode more of the sand and material down into the river, so we're trying to prevent that. But I don't know what the status of it is. I haven't spoken to Bob lately to know what he had got done.
So, Mike, is that the same, is it the one I'm talking about is the one that's right back against the bank, and so it's behind where that, if you were to drive down there past what'll be the new bathrooms, that field there on the left-hand
The,
side?
the output pond they built, right? That output
Exactly
pond
right.
they built down by the softball field.
Yeah, it's right up against the bank, and you gotta basically, you can't see it from the road, but if you walk across that field, it's buried down in there, right at the bottom of the hill, of the back hill.
On the far side of the utility field, right?
Correct.
Where we were talking about was kind of behind where the dog park is.
Yeah, no, this is much further
Oh,
back.
Yeah, so-
Further down towards the bridge.
Yeah.
So,
Different discussion?
yes.
Okay. The way you were describing it, it sounded like it, that's why I wanted to clarify, yeah, thank you.
So on that pond he's talking about, was there any discussion making that bigger than it is now?
No.
So that was just the way it was built bigger. So maybe if the time comes and it's too big, we'll have to make it smaller to make the field fit.
Right,
And my other question to you was,
sure.
anything on the fundraising or raising money? Have the committee talked about any of that?
No, we haven't had a chance, so we were gonna meet early this month, but we didn't have a quorum, so the plan, right now, we've got a meeting scheduled for next week.
Okay. And then, as far as the well location, I'm only saying this from being in the business, it
Sure.
makes sense to put the well centrally located.
Yep.
I mean, and obviously closer to where, the closer you are to your source, you're gonna be putting the water out, the farther away, you're gonna have less pressure, the closer you're better off. So, I mean, wherever they say the best place for the well location, I would think would be, go by whatever they say.
Okay, I didn't, he asked me,
I don't know, if
why
someone
was
had
the stake
told me
there
there
for a
was a
reason?
reason they picked the.
They tested the area, and that was identified to be the best spot for water. But I don't know if you move 50 feet, or if there was any difference, I don't know. But that's why that stake is there, it's been there for quite some time.
Right.
That is the spot for, the optimal spot for water.
Okay,
What do we do about the 2 extra feet of material being removed? It's 2
that,
feet
and
lower,
that,
right?
correct, in the 30 feet on the hill?
Yeah.
I don't know if there was some kind of agreement made on how that worked when the digging was done down there, or?
I believe it was supposed to be graded out to specs.
The grading, I don't know. Like I said, I do know the hill was not, they had to move the hill back, and I want to say it had something to do with drainage. So that I know that was done. They had to clear additional trees, and they had to move that back for whatever. I don't know about the grading.
So are you saying that there's 2 feet of extra material that has to be loaded and put back down there to bring that up to the appropriate grade?
No, if we were to do that field, which is not what was originally approved, right, then, he's just saying it's now 2 feet lower than what was originally spec'd. So, you get steeper bankings that
Right,
lead up
around
to
it.
the road and up to the main road. So he said you'll have to look at that. Do you have encroachment issues? Do you have an issue with somebody falling because of the steepness of that? Would you have to put fencing to stop that? That had to be looked at when that time came to look at that field. He said 2 feet makes a difference of items like that.
Right.
Right.
So you're not sure how that happened? Because I've always thought that that grade was very steep. And I look at, you know, that storm we get every 100 years, you know, that now we get every couple of years.
Right.
Like the Mother's Day flood, and that whole hill ending up in the middle of the field. So, how did it get to that point, that it became so steep and such a possibility of that coming down? I mean, where did we go south with this?
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how that happened or what steps were taken.
You'd have to go back to the, whoever was running the project and ask them if there was a reason why it got moved back there, for what reason at that time. I wasn't around to understand what they did. So you have to go back to whoever ran the project.
Who ran the project? Does anybody know who ran the project at that time?
You
was
know,
the
it would have
Pines
been,
Committee,
it
right?
was it was the highway department. So, like I said, when I started here, I know there was some issue with that hill and the trees. To be honest, I don't remember what it was or why. But I know there was some reason they had to do additional work down there.
Just by eyesight, I'd say the issue is, it's too steep.
Yeah, it's a 3-to-1 versus 2-to-1, right? That's what, right.
It's a big difference.
Yeah, that is.
When you look at that, and being down at football practice now, I see kids go up and down that hill regularly, and I'm just thinking, that's an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah, the
It's
kid
n- it's
standing on
not-
top of
it's
it
not-
when it came down.
It's not if it's gonna happen, it's when it's gonna happen. Because it's so steep when these kids coming down, one little tumble, and they're going, you know, head over
Right.
tail all the
And
way down.
That can also be a concern when we have rain and the retaining pond does, that retention pond does hold water, which it was in the spring when we had more moisture. What if a kid goes into there, right? Because it's a couple feet deep, so.
How do we undo it?
I don't know if you can undo it.
I think what's gonna need to happen is you're gonna have to turn around and, as we build the project, find out what the situations are. If there's a pond issue, we have to put a fence around it. If the, you know, knock on wood, nothing's eroded on the hill yet, you know what I mean? You have to put a couple signs saying stay off the hill, I don't know, I mean,
You already do have signs of erosion. If you go over there and look at that hill, you can see the trail coming down off the hill where the water has just, you know, rivered.
Can you plant on it?
Well,
They have,
There's
and I
some
know
grass on
the
it.
garden club was planning to do flower bombs and shoot some seeds in there to cover it with some colored flowers to help.
No, I mean like trees,
Vegetation.
you know, spruce trees or something like that, something that'll dig into the side of it, you know?
Well, they spent all that money removing all those trees.
Put 'em back. It's the
Well,
stumps.
It's the stumps, right.
Not the farmers, it's the stumps.
unfortunately, we can't even get the well put in and we can't get the project going. I would worry about that, I mean, you know what I'm saying, keep an eye on the hill, do what we can do to retain it, but I hate to see us stop getting the fields done and in the process, keep that in mind, in the process, deal with it, you know what I mean? I don't know,
no,
go
I
ahead.
I agree. I think issue number one is getting that well fixed, because right now, the emerald of this region, of the district, is going bad, you know, fast.
Right.
Gotta get some water on that somehow. Is there any solutions to get some water on that field before we lose it completely and it turns to dust?
But that's a slightly different issue, right? That's the existing well that's having a
Right.
problem.
Right, and I actually spoke to a second well company, and their schedule, they don't know when they'll be able to come out here to fix it.
Because the original refused to reply.
I've called him. He came out here, told us what parts we need, we bought the parts, and he's never come back to put them in. And then, Bill had given us some information about why they were not coming out. I don't know if there's any truth to that. But I called another well company, and he needs to get the pump guy out here, and the pump guy is so backed up with all this drought that he's been busy working on all these other wells.
Is there anything you can enlighten us about?
The well, it was told me secondhand, the original well company was not happy with the bidding process or something to do with the being told they won a bid or something on that line.
Promised they were gonna win.
Promised they were gonna win a bid or something, and they got irritated, pretty mad, and they don't feel the town of Groveland handled it right, and that's why they're not coming back out. I
They were
mean,
not happy
I
when we
wasn't
put the
told
second,
that directly from the owner, I was told it from a relative of the,
they were not happy when we put the new well out to bid. I had a visit in my office, they were not happy. They had already done the work, provided specs, didn't think it was fair that they had to submit a bid. I don't know if that has any, I don't know if there's any truth behind what Bill was hearing, but they were not happy when we put it out to bid.
But you had to,
We had to, yes,
gotta follow the law.
yes, correct.
Cookie crumbles.
But since then, he's been out and looked at it and told us what needed to be repaired, just hasn't come out to do it.
The only, looking at that hill over there, the only problem is where the football team was running up and down the hill. Am I correct in that?
I don't know about that, yeah.
Okay. It just, I know there's an area that the football team was using, they've stopped them from doing that, and that should fill in. I know the highway department's gonna do something with it anyway, but that should correct the problem.
Not having them run up and down the hill, you mean? So you
Oh,
mean?
no, they're not gonna be using that, they're not gonna, they've stopped them from doing that.
Right, okay.
But it should correct itself. I know the highway department was going to, put something out there, take care of it, put some bloom or something, but now with no water, I'm sure that was put off a little bit.
Sure.
anyone else?
It'll address itself.
Go ahead, Bill.
Mr. Houghton, what else do we need to push this project through to completion? I mean, it's
Well,
been going on a
you
long
can't-
time. I'd like to see it pushed
absolutely
across
has.
the
I
goal
couldn't
line.
agree with you
yeah.
more. It took a long time to hear back from the well companies because they've been out so straight. I'll work with Denise tomorrow, you available?
Yes, so, we would need to advertise, we would need to submit it tomorrow to be in the 31st Central Register, otherwise it's another 2 weeks.
Okay.
So if you can get me the information tomorrow, I can publish it. It'll be in on the 31st, and we can open bids as early as the 14th.
Can we absolutely get that done? I mean, right now, time is of the essence,
Oh,
I
I
think.
couldn't agree with you more, because we want to, that's what I talked to landscape companies about, we want to get the fields in, of course, in the fall, hoping we see rain again, right, so that's going to help the situation, but fall's the best time to plant.
Right, right.
And they felt that if you did get it in the fall, that they could be used in the spring, a little bit easy at first, but that would work.
Okay, now the fall, what are you talking to fall? Talking September, October, November, what's
Well,
fall?
the well has to get done first, right, so hopefully we get a date for that. Once we have a date for that, then we can line up the landscaping bids to get those taken care of, so that they can follow right after that.
Do you
Well,
think
we'd
that-
need to do the irrigation between there, right? So we can get.
Landscaping irrigation,
okay.
same thing, yes.
And I will say, just one thing on that is, the well that we just put in at the Bagnell, they actually changed the pump the very last day. So we couldn't even do anything with the irrigation until that was fully in and installed, because the pump they had spec'd out, they changed on us because of the production of water. So we need to be careful that whatever they're telling us, if we're gonna go right out to bid on the next phase, that we know exactly what's going to be used, otherwise we would need to wait until they put that pump in to make sure we're speccing the right irrigation system.
Once they're done drilling, that we'll know the flow and all that, though, once they get it drilled.
Right, but they still changed after that with
Right,
us.
I understand. It's hypothetical numbers until they finally drill and tell us how many pounds per square inch and all that. So what happens, they expect a bigger pump, and now they're going to a smaller pump, so,
Because a lot depends on depth, right?
But I mean, still, if the well company, if the well company bids it that way, and you have the drilling company has a well company they work with, it will get done, but it might change, like Denise says. It might be bigger, it might be smaller.
Right.
And you don't know until it's finally actually drilled and what
course.
flow they got.
Right.
We just need to try and get it moving as much as we can.
A couple of follow-up questions. If you can get this well in, get the irrigation done, would it be your plan to do this seeding this fall?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. If that's your plan, do you have a plan for the youth groups that are currently using this for an alternate venue, or to somehow relocate them? Because obviously, if you're gonna seed this fall, you can't have 200 kids tramping on over it. You're gonna have
Right.
dirt when you're done.
Right.
So is there any contingency plans for these youth groups to go somewhere else for an alternate, like I said, venue?
I've not talked to anybody about
I
that.
think the only option is to split the field so you can see half of it this year.
It'll cost you more money that way.
Otherwise, you're gonna just waste money.
Well, but really, but I think the front fields where the softball is going, I know lacrosse is using it, That might be the only one that's using that part, right? Because football is on the utility field.
Right.
So if we could potentially find, maybe behind Bagnell, now that that's being done, if we could use,
Can't go on that this
oh, you
spring.
can't go on that either.
But what about Strawberry Fields or something?
That's worse than the utility.
I know.
Well, we just have to give these kids some place to go.
Oh, I know.
If in fact we get to this, and I'm praying to God that we do, because that would be a great thing that we get
We're
that
going
seat
in-
in this
We're
year.
going in 2 weeks, September. Contract, 2 to 3 weeks, October.
Right.
You won't see any construction going on down there until probably the middle of October. And at the end of October, you might as well scrap it until spring, because at
Right,
that
you
point.
won't get it.
Yeah, well, there's only
Zero.
2 weeks, 3 weeks left of football anyways. I mean,
Right, but I'm saying,
fall
seeding
sports.
wise, you start getting into November, you're gonna lose half your germination, or, 2%
Defrost.
of germination, you're not gonna get, what I mean, so.
I mean, if football got pressed, is there an option to work with the high school for that practice field they have?
They wanted to charge,
I
did they?
don't know.
I don't know.
I've had
I
very,
thought that was a problem with being able to use their fields.
I don't know
in
why
the
people are
past,
using
I've
it.
been able, basically, for lack of a better word, shame the administration there to allow these kids to use the fields, because they were sending us over to Triton, which is kind of a slap in the face. What are you telling the kids here? We really don't care that much about you. We'll send you over to Triton. So they've been more than accommodating to the youth groups since then. Dr. Mulqueen has done, I think, a great job trying to extend the olive branch to the youth groups to make them feel more included than excluded, so that's a positive. But I don't know, I mean, they're gonna be in the middle of their season too.
Sure.
They've got, from what I understand, for the first time in a couple of years, a freshman football team with some real numbers, along with the JV and the varsity, so they're gonna be hard pressed for fields themselves.
We
So I
probably
don't
should
know
do
if
is
that's a
cross that road
possibility.
when we come to it.
Yeah, I was gonna
We'll
say,
make it-
once we
we're gonna
know
have to make it
schedule.
work, we know we are, one way or another.
Right, I just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
everybody's given adequate notice.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that they're not sent scrambling at the last minute, communication
Right.
is key, let's
Right.
just make sure everybody's
Absolutely.
equipment, there's containers, there's a lot of logistics involved, so let's just keep that in mind and make sure that everybody's kept in the loops and plenty of advance notice, so nobody's caught with their proverbial shorts around their ankles trying to run out of a fire.
Right, well, as Bill mentioned, I mean, by the time we open up well bids, it would be September 14th at the earliest. I could get a contract out immediately, but we're probably looking at the beginning of October before they're gonna drill a well. And then once they drill it, then we do the irrigation system. So it may not be, I don't know. I will say the only good thing is if it goes out a little longer. Not that this should be a driving force, but the procurement laws change on November 7th. So anything, we now just need written quotes at under 50,000. So we wouldn't need to go do a full bid process, which would work to our benefit, because I'm assuming the field work will be between sort of the 10 and 50,000 range, but I don't know.
I don't know. The recommendation is we're gonna need 4 inches of loam.
Okay.
Because the soil that's down there is rocky, and it's not good soil to retain.
Okay.
We're gonna
slime.
go out to bid with it though, right?
Absolutely, I think so, yeah.
Has
right?
anyone gone down there with a shovel and done like testing to see the thickness of the soil you got?
I walked it with a landscaper last week.
I understand, but what I'm asking is, usually what you do is you take a shovel and you actually dig out with a shovel and you measure your soil depth.
There-
Everyone said
it's
the
only-
Bagnell School needed it, and in some places it was 8 inches.
But it's only subsoil that's down there.
Okay,
It's
so
all
someone
heavy
took a
rocks.
shovel and they've already dug it and they've tested it.
I don't know if he took a shovel, but we talked about it when I came down to meet with him.
Okay. Anyway, I don't know who's gonna draw the specs up for that, but whoever does it, you should really make sure that they do a soil test and see what you got for soil. And you might be right, it might be all subsoil, I don't know. But you're looking for sod, you probably should put 4 inches of loam, if it, All right, go ahead, Bill.
As far as maintenance goes, a lot of the maintenance down there now, it looks like it's done by a lot of private citizens that have, special interests. A fellow like Dan Stewart comes to mind. Is there a plan in place to replace that fella in case he drops dead in the field trying to take care of it?
Well, I think, Denise, correct me if I'm wrong in that, we had talked about it at one of the prior meetings about the money being set aside that was left from the original Pines to do maintenance work for the fields, right?
Yes, but I think as this board alluded to, that money's gonna disappear soon, because we're not replenishing it in any way.
Right.
So that will get us a few years' worth of maintenance. But
That's
there
the
should be a
start.
plan put in place for future You know, because that does cover everything. We've talked about redoing the basketball nets and some work down there. So that work covers, and it covers all the utilities and everything else. So there's only so much money left, and when it's gone, it's gone. So, which is why I think they're looking at advertising and things like that.
Some of the youth groups have come up to me and made some phenomenal suggestions and would love to sit with you folks and bring those ideas to you as far as revenue generating ideas. So they're sitting there just waiting, begging to be contacted.
Yeah, we haven't had our meeting yet, so once we do, we'll know
That
where we
is
stand.
what we decide next
Right.
Tuesday, is whether we want to take this whole thing on, you know, in generating funds for it. And after we reach that decision as a board, then we'll come looking for them. Because we want all the ideas on fundraising we can get if we do decide to take this on.
I don't think you'll have to look hard. Great. Thank you, Chair, and
All set?
yes,
Great.
thank you,
Anyone else,
sir.
got anything?
Thank you, Mr. Houghton.
You're welcome.
Mike? Ed, everyone good? All right, thank you
All
very
right,
much.
great. You're welcome.
Okay, moving on, we have the discussion on term limit discussion. So, before, we were talking about having term limits.
So this is a sampling. As I told you I would, I put an email out to pretty much all 351 communities to ask if they have term limits in their bylaws, specifically governing chairs of committees. These are the people who responded that had some type of term limit. They range, some of them which I found interesting, I don't remember the town, but it's in here, I believe, that the Board of Selectmen actually choose the chair of each board on an annual basis, which I was the only one that had that type of language in there.
I like that a lot.
I agree with you.
And the ones that have, the ones that have a term limit said they've really never had any problems with someone else not stepping up or not having a chair unless there was sort of an extenuating circumstance, which they let it go for a second year if there was an issue. So there are a bunch of suggestions. There are some are policies, some are bylaws, some are sort of written rules that they have, but I did give you the responses that had to do with the term limits.
It was sandwich, by the way.
Was it sandwich?
Yeah.
You have anything you wanna say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm for term limits, I'm push the issue here, or at least push to get the dialogue going on it. I've read through the responses that Denise got, thanks for getting those.
You're welcome.
I like Manchester by the Sea's, one pager. Pretty much limit their appointments to only town residents. Two, they have tenure of appointments to provide opportunity for fresh, and they say this right in it, and this is their standard procedure, to provide opportunities for fresh faces from time to time while ensuring that all boards, committees, and commission are served by experienced men and women. It is desirable but not mandatory to limit terms of membership. The following formula was agreed to: 1-year appointments, no more than 5 consecutive terms; 3-year appointments, no more than 2 consecutive terms. And then they say, because any member who has completed his or her allotted term of service may be reappointed after a 1-year interval, or reappointed in absence of any other applicant. And then they also have an attendance requirement, which I think is important too, because if you get on a board, you ought to fulfill the duty. I understand, we all have lives and things, life gets in the way with everything. But they say attendance, except for extraordinary circumstances, any person who fails to attend 51% in any 6-month time period or 3 consecutive scheduled meetings of a board, committee, or commission shall be considered to have resigned. And the selectman shall appoint a successor to serve the unexpired term. Well, there are some boards where people don't show up. Meeting after meeting after meeting. So, that's pretty simple, and it's not, heavy-handed in any way. And I like how they put the spirit of the law in there to, or the rule to get fresh faces involved. And again, if you can't live with someone, they do their term limit, they take a year off, maybe they jump to another board and you bring them back. So it's not like, somebody's, absolutely outstanding and the people want them, so, but, I think that would cultivate it. It's like turning the soil, So that's my 2 cents. It's a subjective issue, for sure.
Yeah, this, I read them all over, and there's a couple of good points in every one of them. And there was one that recommended, I forget where I saw it here, it was Concord. Recommended a chairman and a vice chairman for every committee. I'm not sure that we do that now, but that wouldn't be a bad idea. And the 51%, in any 6-month period, 3 consecutive scheduled meetings of a board is considered to be resigned. I agree with that. I agree with Dan that if they're on a certain board, extenuating circumstances, excuse me, a person could be ill, they could be injured, not be able to make a meeting. You gotta take that into consideration, but just, not showing up for the meetings, although we do have a tough time trying to get people anyway. But I think we should look at these and prepare something for the annual town meeting.
I think that's part of the question is, are these towns getting an abundance of applicants to volunteer? Or is it the same people just changing seats all the time? Because we just had a conversation about how hard it is to get volunteers in the town for any of our boards, so we're saying there's term limits, which I agree. I mean, I offered myself a term limit of, this term, and then if I'm elected again and I run again next time, another term, and then that would be it. But, if we don't have anybody to replace those people on the boards as it is, it'd be tough to turn the soil over, as you say.
Well, then playing the devil's advocate, maybe people see that there is a term limit, maybe other people will still step up. Sometimes people don't want to participate on a board or a committee because they feel that their ideas aren't being heard from because they're serving on a board or a committee with somebody that's been on there for 15+ years. So they just feel that that what they have to offer is minute compared to somebody with all the experience. And I love the tenure appointment, to provide opportunities for fresh faces from time to time out of Manchester, a great idea. And I know that when you get appointed to a board or a committee, or you run for office, it's not a lifetime appointment. And some of the people that we have spoken with here since I've been elected, in the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it is, they feel that because they're on a certain committee, that's their job. They're on there for life. And so from time to time, we should be getting new blood in there. Thank you.
Go ahead, Bill.
I think the term limits is a nice idea, but I think we should more direct it to the chairs, because those are the people that really can control the agenda of the meeting. They steer, and to Ed's point, sometimes other people can be turned off because they're stifled by the chair of some of these committees. So I think if we put a term limit on the chairs and make them rotating, much like sandwich calls for, but no more than 2 consecutive years, and then mandatory kind of change up the chairs. So you have new blood, you have differences, new opinions, new ways of thinking coming into the leadership of these boards every couple of years or so. And that might keep the blood fresh. As the chairs change, the base may change as well, which kind of rotates people in.
Well, I agree with, Bill just said. I was gonna say the same thing, that I think the chairs and the vice chairs should change. And I do like Manchester by the Sea, I read them all. But I don't think we should mess with the board members as much as the chair and the vice chair, because going back to your point, Ed, if you have a chair on there for a long period of time, and they've been there for a long period of time, and people say, hey, he's already been there for so long, I don't wanna step up to the plate, he's been there, my word's not gonna be heard, so, I'm definitely up for changing the chair. And I would say, I know from being where I am here, 2 years, you can get the job done, 3 years would be better, but I mean, no more than that, so, I think 2 years doing what I've been doing is enough after 2 years, to be honest with you, so. I think that, 2 years would probably be good. I think you get burnt out, and it gets to you, so.
And the criticism.
Yeah, the criticisms are big, you know.
Well, like
whatever.
any coach, right? Sometimes the message gets stale.
Right.
Belichick maybe being the, you know, the exception instead of the rule, but
Right.
it happens.
So that's where I would go, to rotate the chairs.
So maybe an incorporation between Manchester by the Sea and some of Sandwich might be a good kind of beginning point,
Yep.
shall I say?
So what do you wanna do, kind of come up with a combination of those in a written form and then vote on it next time, or look at it next time?
It might be a good place to start. Gotta draw the line in the sand somewhere, and
Right, start. Is everybody on board with the chair and the vice chair to start out with, that? 2 year, going 2 years?
That's all I can get, Bill.
Well, no, I'm starting, this is a starting point.
I mean, take to the.
Then we'll go into Manchester, and we'll, if we all agree it's Manchester, we'll go in and we'll look at it, and we'll come up with a format. I'm talking chair and the vice chair for 2 years.
Well,
Then we
I'd
can-
like to see, also a term limit for, the board members, as long as, you know, we got some of these people and some of these boards in town that have been there for, forever.
Okay, so why don't we start right with the chair, and then we'll go into that, and we'll talk about that?
Yeah, let's
piece.
take it to the extreme. I mean,
Right.
if you had 5 members of a board, and they've all been on there 20 years, you really think, are you gonna get fresh faces?
No.
You're not. You're gonna get apathy. You're gonna get people say, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be the new kid on the block here. They're gonna stifle me.
All right, so
So, you know.
what's first to
so-
agree?
So maybe a 5-year term limit, maybe that's, you know,
Right.
too short, but, you know, we can get a new president out of there, and it's a good thing.
Has
With the
everyone
guy
read
we
them all?
got, After 8 years, it's enough.
Has everyone, you've read them, Dan, you've read them all?
Yeah.
Did you like Manchester's format?
I thought that was the best one, but
Ed?
again, they adopted it not as a
Bill?
bylaw, and that's another
Manchester?
procedural.
I thought it was the best written.
Okay, so why don't we turn around and start with, everyone seems to like Manchester, we'll start with them, and then we can go down through the list and change it however we want. If that's what you're willing to do, next week we can vote on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone should be on a board, you know, more than 10 years in the extreme, you know? Take a year off, and like I said, if the town can't live without you, and nobody wants the job, you can come back after a year, you know, sabbatical or something. There are other committees you could fill the void on. If you're really into public service, jump on over to, you know, the Board of Health or something, you know? Jump on, you know, there's plenty of committees that you could serve on, so I don't think that's dissing anybody. I think, you know, the benefits outweigh the burdens on it. That's my 2 cents.
Well, all we can do is try it.
we
So,
can do is
does
try it.
someone wanna take and, you wanna take it, run through, down the line, or how do you wanna go about it?
I think we should,
You get 1 year appointment, no more than 5, 3-year appointment, no more than 2 consecutive terms.
no, I think we should take part of it and have it written up as a consensus for what Groveland wants.
Yeah,
and
right,
then
that's what I'm
look at
trying to
it
get
ne-
to.
Then look at it next Monday, we're not gonna vote on it.
No,
take a piece tonight.
no. I'm just trying to get the ball rolling here with some ideas.
Bill, I mean, I wouldn't even mind going more than 5 years on that. I mean, 1-year appointments, you know? I'd be okay with even 8 years. You know, 3-year appointments, 9 years, 9 you're out. I mean, that's enough. You know? But again, nobody else wants the job. I guess you come back, say, here I am again.
Well, there is if you read, any member who has completed his or her allotted term of service may be reappointed after a 1-year interval,
Yeah.
or reappointed in the absence of any other applicant.
Right, so there's
There's
it's
an out.
built in,
They covered that.
there's a clause built in.
They covered that. That's why I like this. They covered all the bases. What if? What if you can't get anyone? Well, I guess you're it then.
Right.
So,
Leave it up to at that point in time, you have to leave it up to the board.
And let's face it, certain people have an extreme passion for some things, and others don't.
Right.
some boards require more, knowledge, like the Conservation Commission. I mean, you gotta put your head into a body of, environmental law to do it right. Same thing with ZBA. I mean, you gotta know the zoning bylaws, you know? It's more technical, you know? Some boards may not be as technical, they may be more subjective, you know?
Yep.
Agreed.
Arguably so, baseball. Very technical.
So how do you guys wanna go about making up Groveland's? You wanna take a crack at it, Dan?
I'll take a crack at it. I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't like the rubber stamp things usually, but I like Manchester by the Seas. I should plagiarize it. Is that okay with them?
Okay.
Get a permission slip as a copyrighted.
May I ask a question? Are you looking to do appointed and elected? Because if so, it would have to be a bylaw if you wanted to affect the elected positions.
Well, I think we're talking about the committees right now.
But just appointed or appointed and elected?
Well, that's a whole nother subject.
Right.
I think there ought to be a term limits on the Board of Selectmen.
Well, you could do,
But
if
that-
you
but-
did a bylaw, you could do elected committees as well.
But in terms of committees, I like what they have here. I'd maybe tweak the one-year appointments, and they say 5 consecutive terms. I'd even go a little bit higher than that, you know? I don't know how anyone else feels on that.
How about if you start with,
But
boards and committees, and then, see how that works,
I
and
agree.
then work your way up to elected.
Boards and committees.
as far as the Board of Selectmen goes, I think it ought to be limited to 3 terms. That'd be 9 years.
But also the people can do that as well. Your voters can, I mean, you have the voters that can vote you out, you know what I mean?
They can, and we've seen that, but, you know, the, statistically, incumbents win, in extreme, majorities. In fact, people are unlikely to even run against them. I mean, you know, not to say you couldn't, but, you know, it's David versus Goliath if you know.
That's if the person was doing a good job, but if
You
the
know.
person's not doing a good job, they're gonna be gone.
And again, it's at our local level and
I don't
all
think
the
they're
way
gonna
to the
keep coming in,
national
if not
level.
doing a good job, the voters.
Not that
You know,
we, you know,
sometimes
have
the
campaign war
longer they're
chests
there,
or
the more
anything,
powerful
but,
they
you know.
become, and they become entrenched, and then it becomes difficult to remove them without legislature.
Right.
The longer someone is in public office, they make more friends, which is not a bad thing. But if you're opposed to their ideas, it could be a bad thing. So they become entrenched. Okay? People owe them favors. I voted for this for you. I helped you with that. Bup, bup, bup. So inherently, I think that power, you know, increases the longer somebody's sitting in a public position. And I think the only way to handle that is to term them out.
You're right, because absolute power corrupts
So,
absolutely.
When you say there's there's a rigged system, there is a rigged system in many ways, in that it favors the guy on the inside versus the guy on the outside. So, we could put a mechanism in place. There's a reason why the president's only 2 terms. Bill Clinton would still be there. Would still be there.
So do you wanna do it as appointed committees and elected, or you wanna just do one now or do them all?
I think we ought to start small and work our way up.
can always
I mean, let's see if it works first.
Right, so the board can set a policy on appointed positions, obviously, because you make the appointments. So you can do your own, just like Manchester by the Sea. They did a Board of Selectmen policy regarding all of their non-salaried, I do want to clarify, it's non-salaried appointments. And then if you wanted to look to do elected boards and committees, that would be a bylaw.
Stipends are not defined as salaried, right?
Correct,
Because some of these boards have stipends.
correct. Regular wages.
Okay.
I'd like to start with the appointed boards and committees and commissions.
Okay, Ned wants to go with appointed,
I agree.
appointed. Dan? Wanna start with appointed for now and?
Sure.
And start with that? Okay, so we got an agreement on that, so now,
I'd also like Selectman Watson's idea of a chairman and a vice chairman, because in the absence of a chairman, someone's there to take charge in a leadership role and continue on. Just makes sense, you have a second in command.
I think just add a 6th one in there, there'll be a chairman and a vice chairman.
We just add it in.
Sure.
put the verbiage in there.
How about the one-year appointments? Dan had a good suggestion, no more than, it listed here, no more than 5. What do you want to go to, Dan, on that, 8?
Go to 8.
And no more than 3 consecutive terms?
Yeah, no more than 3 on the 3 years, that'd be 9 years. Then you take a year off.
But my opinion is if you're going 9 years, you're going back to what you just said, you're going back to, someone's been there for 9 years, so you're really,
You're almost entrenched at
you're
that
almost
point.
entrenched.
Yeah,
That's
but
my point.
there's a light at the end of the tunnel, you're all done.
At 9 years,
No one can help you.
at 9 years, I think you're entrenched at that point.
Yeah, the only help for them.
Just when you think you arrived, they show you the door. That's how that works.
Yeah, but if there's nobody there to open the door, then guess what? They'd be reappointed in absence of any other applicant.
I'm okay, you wanna leave it at 6?
I'll go 6.
Just thought on the extreme end, I wouldn't, you know,
Six
less,
and-
less
I'll
than a
go 6,
decade.
And I'll go 6 and 2.
Less than a
that's all.
decade.
Slightly.
6 and 2?
That's what I would like to do, 6 and 2, because I know 9 years, you're already entrenched. so
6 and 2.
Defeating our purpose at that point.
We'll compromise, I'm good, Bill.
All right,
Okay.
6 and 2. I don't know.
So,
if
I'm
you-
sorry, so one-year appointments, you were making 6 years? Is that what the 6 and 2? I lost what the
Well,
6
6
and 2.
consecutive, 6,
terms.
Okay, and then 2.
6 and 8.
Two
Consecutive terms, okay.
Of three.
So we were at 8, you went down to 6.
Right. And everything else is gonna stay the same?
I think it says what,
The only thing I would recommend is
That's what I
under
was
the
kicking around.
attendance, you may wanna make it non-excused versus excused, cause if someone's having a
Right.
surgery or something like that, I mean, they may miss multiple meetings. I would just consider,
Define excused.
I
isn't-
would say up to the chairman, but I don't know, I would just think of, if you're gonna have someone considered to have resigned after missing, you know, if there's a board, I'm just gonna use finance, during budget season and they meet weekly, if someone has surgery and misses 3 meetings, then you'd be, you know,
wouldn't that come under
consecutive
extraordinary? It'd come under extraordinary
Yeah.
circumstances.
I could understand that,
well, as
but
long as you define what that means, or who makes that decision.
I
See,
took a
here's
part,
the
I took a
circumstance.
part-time job as a store Santa to make extra money, and now I can't make these
If you
meetings.
just have
they're all
work and
my
family
night.
commitments,
It's
it's, you
not.
probably, and I've had some of those, we've all had those, I mean, you gotta make a living.
Right.
Your bread and butter job comes first, and that's fine. But if you take on the appointment, it comes with a commitment, you're gonna show up, it's just like, you know, when a kid signs up for a Little League, you gotta go to practice, you just can't go to the games.
And the coach is expected to be there, because
You
he
know what
made
I'm
a
saying?
commitment. Yeah.
You know, and yeah, you can miss one and you get a free pass maybe. It starts to be a pattern, you see the spots.
Then he ends up in right field, right, Dan?
It's up in right field and batting ninth.
So I think that there's validity in that kind of rule. You don't want people just joining boards for the sake of having their name on the board and then not participating. I mean, the bottom line is decisions are made by the people that show up. You need people to show up to get things
The
done.
other thing I can say, and some people, and it's not epidemic, but there are some issues on some boards that are kinda more important than others. So you can show up on the big votes. But then there's the, you know, little workshops and the boring mundane stuff that's just dull. You just skip those meetings, you know? Pick the good ones. So, I don't think anyone should pick and choose the meetings, you know? If you sign on, you sign on.
I agree with Dan.
Every meeting should be viewed as important.
Right. Do you get you got the point of the, we're gonna add in the chair and the vice chair? Okay, good. All right. So, we'll stay with the 51%.
Yeah, I don't think anybody, you know,
Anyway.
to Denise's point, somebody who's having surgery, that's extraordinary.
I think they can talk to them, talk about it.
I'm not gonna
amongst
get kicked
themselves.
off a board for that.
Anything else anyone wanna change? Are we good with everything else?
Yeah.
All right?
Just the chair and vice chair of all committees.
Yep, she got
Yeah,
that.
and I would, on number 4, it does say, vacancies caused by resignation shall be filled immediately if more than 3 months remain in the unexpired term, and may be filled at the selectman's discretion if fewer than 3 months of the term remain. Are you still looking to keep that? So that if it's, you know, April and someone resigns, are you gonna fill that term, or are you gonna wait until July 1st?
I would think that it would depend on the situation.
Yeah.
If
How many
that,
reps on that board?
if that certain committee or board cannot conduct business because
Right,
of
you
the
have to do it,
absence,
if you had to.
So
Then
you
we'd
wanna
be
keep that
compelled.
language?
I'd leave it in there, so if you had, for an emergency
In
situation,
case.
yeah, you had to.
we don't want,
Finance committee is one,
yeah, you don't want to
People.
take down anybody,
finance committee, you need a board in March,
any need a quorum, yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we're all good with this? So we'll get it all typed up, and we'll vote on it next time we meet. Okay? All right, so, moving on. We have the upcoming town events. So that would be the Pumpkin Fest. And we talked about 911, 9/11.
Yes, Selectman Watson wanted to add
Mhm.
that, because he wanted to talk about September 11th.
Do you wanna start with the 9/11, Ed?
Sure.
What your thoughts were?
9/11 this year, September 11th comes on a Sunday. Tough day, but I think we should, I think the selectmen should plan something out for that morning, a short service. Probably ought to be held by the flagpole in front of the fire station. It seemed like that would be the most appropriate place, considering firefighters and police officers were killed on that particular day. Short service. I think it'd be very difficult on a Sunday to get a member of the clergy. Seeing as how, whether you're, whatever religion, they're doing something on services on a Sunday. So, we need somebody to check into that time frame. I don't know what the other cities and towns do, but probably around, 9 o'clock?
I think it's 8:36.
8:46.
8:46.
8:46. So we got
So we're gonna need,
3 weeks, 4 weeks to work on something like that, and just a small agenda. I think we could do something, it wouldn't take too long to, well, we should do something. It's something been done in the last couple of years, and we should expand upon that.
have you got any ideas yet?
No.
Do you wanna, come back to our next meeting, think about it, and come back to us with some ideas, and we all can think of some ideas, all of us, and we can talk
Yeah.
about it next time?
We could do that.
Everyone good with that? Great. All right, so we'll reconvene on that subject again at the next meeting.
Now, would we be looking to make this an annual event?
It has been for the last 2 years. So since I came here, I had
Always,
asked.
always on?
It's been
9/11.
15 years.
Yes, so when I first came here, I had asked what the town did for September 11th, and they hadn't done anything. So I asked the fire chief to do something. And it's been, a slow start because they hadn't done anything. So we have had a small ceremony the last 2 years. This one, yes, it's the 15th anniversary, and I think we'd like to, I think Selectman Watson would like to see it a little more organized and to start to grow the event a little bit bigger and have it more recognized.
Is there any people in Groveland that had affected by that directly, do you know? Does anyone know? Anyone been affected directly?
I don't know. Good
Maybe we
point.
could have the families come and be part of
I
it?
have no idea. if
I don't either.
correctly.
How would we find out? Well, maybe we can.
But I
I'm
think
sure
you-
for people that lived here 15 years ago, if someone was affected, you would know. So I can certainly speak to the police department.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you'd know if there was a resident that had personal loss or something like that.
Just reach out to the public right now, if anybody out there knows of anybody that has, a loved one or somebody that was involved in, to reach out to any of the members of the board or to Denise and let us know.
Yeah, we can start out there.
There may be somebody that moved into town in the last
Right.
15 years.
Okay. All right, so, moving forward,
No, can we talk about Pumpkin Fest?
that's how it's
Oh,
going.
okay.
So moving forward, the Pumpkin Fest, we need to come up with a date again?
Yes, so the library is looking to hold a Halloween party on Wednesday, October 26th. So they were wondering if it's something that we would like to coordinate our lighting. Last year, we did it the Thursday prior to Halloween. This would be the Wednesday prior to Halloween, and coordinate it with they're having like a costume trick-or-treating party. They were already planning to involve the police department anyways, and we had police and fire involved last year, so it would make good sense to have all departments working together. So if we follow the same format as last year.
Yep.
We had pumpkins dropped off starting 1 week prior, which would be the 19th of October, and then we would have a lighting on the 26th.
Okay.
So if those dates work, we
25th.
can,
Is there a particular,
26th.
26.
particular reason they wanna do it on a Wednesday night?
I think because the library is open later that night, so that's when they was coordinating their
It's also
Halloween
school
party.
night.
It was a school night last year. I think they'd start at like 5 or 6 o'clock. I don't think we're talking
Yeah, it
late.
gets dark early.
It was pretty dark last
yeah.
year at 6 o'clock.
I'm just
So,
thinking,
to go back, we still have hopefully we still have all the wood. It was at the highway garage. We have to rent the staging, so we have to find that money again.
I did budget a little additional money into our town decor budget we have for the flowers in Elm Park.
Right.
So I did increase that a little bit to cover some additional costs of
Right.
this. I still have the banner, I have the lights, I will get more LED, and we'll do away with the
Right, candlelight.
candles. So yeah, so I don't know what else, the
And then,
staging.
I got Dunn's Farm in West Newbury donated the corn stalks and the pumpkins. I can try doing that again.
Yeah, we can reach out, we had donations for food and coffee and the donuts, and, we can certainly make all of those calls. Once we have the dates, it's
Well, Deb
Stuart.
Stewart, maybe give her a call, because she was very involved in it last time. Maybe she'd wanna do that. Maybe we can have, in another week or so, 2 weeks, maybe we can have a meeting and try to get some people to come in. Have like a little discussion about anyone that's gonna be involved. Like, I'm talking the library people, the police, us,
Sure.
maybe Deb and whoever else wants to be involved.
Sure.
Okay, so maybe we can work on a date on that.
Like a full board meeting, like here at a meeting, or,
No, sub-meeting one afternoon or something. You know what I mean, just
okay.
all right, so are we all good with that? Anything more on that?
Yes, but while we're on that subject, and I know again, it's a ways away, but it's something for the board to think about. Halloween night is a Monday, and it is a regularly scheduled board meeting. And I know several of you have younger children, so keep that in mind if you want to have the meeting that night, or if you want to change the meeting. I just want to let you think about that, because it is a regularly scheduled meeting night.
I would say move it, because if I had kids, I'd wanna make sure I was there for my kids, but that's just me.
honestly,
Mike, you have kids, Bill, you have kids, Dan,
it's
you
my
have kids.
favorite holiday. I love going out there with the kids.
All right, so we'll move it to Tuesday?
I told them last year they were getting too big for this. Uh-oh, they argued
Aw.
with me though. I mean, at what age should you not be trick or treating, you know?
How old?
High school,
13.
They're 11.
yeah.
Nah,
One more
it's-
year.
Nah, oh, another year, they
more
got
year.
another
It
year.
should be like one of those little height meters
One
like
more
at the
year.
amusement park, you know? You're
One
too
more year.
tall.
My
No
kids don't
candy.
care, they don't care to participate now.
So we'll move it to Tuesday? Everyone agree with that? Can
November
Tuesday?
1st.
Teenagers aren't cute in the, little, Darth Vader
Right.
outfit, you know? They're just
Tuesday,
not.
Bill?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Ed, Tuesday?
Sure, that's fine.
Dan, Tuesday?
All right.
Cutoff's 12, Dan.
All right,
12?
this is it last year,
Unwritten rule.
tell 'em. This is it last
Tuesday,
year,
what's the
Dan.
date, Tuesday what?
This is it last year.
November
Elementary
1st.
school,
November
right?
1st?
Sixth grade?
I'm sorry?
November 1st.
November 1st.
Yeah.
And
And they
while,
can
we're-
start passing the candy out.
while we're on that subject, our next meeting is a Tuesday, because it's Labor Day on the Monday. So just a reminder that our next meeting is the Tuesday as well.
Okay? So we're all good with that stuff? We're good now?
Good.
Okay, so moving forward, right on, we got caught up again. So we have the ZBA chair request to appoint William Dunn to the ZBA. And I will start out by saying that I was a ZBA member, and one of the reasons why that I got off that board is because I was a selectman at the time, and I felt that it can be contentious. I understand the chairman's point. His point is he doesn't have a deciding vote on the board, and I think he was trying to reach out to get something quicker than later. I would like to see if we can't find someone in town that would step up to get on the ZBA.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, real
I
estate
mean,
lawyer,
it's
you know?
important.
Nominate Mitch Crone.
Second.
You can recuse yourself on the conflicts. It's easy. You just say, I'm out of here.
To go back to the point that I think Mike made earlier, if we each took a turn filling in, that's one board that you really need to be involved in from the get-go, especially if you're on a case, you have to understand it. It's gonna be too hard to go in and to go out on it. I mean, and I clearly understand the chair's point, but, I don't know how to handle it. I know it's down to 4 members, and I know they have a lot of contentious cases going on, which I'm involved, trying to help negotiate as a select person, chairman of the board. I don't think that would be the right thing to do at this point, unless one of you guys want to do something different, but I don't,
I think you'd be fine on a temporary basis, and I understand, you know, you get appointed for the remainder of the vacant term, but, I mean, you can take that onto yourself. As soon as we got a replacement, you resign. I mean, it's doable. I listened to what, you know, Mitch said at public comment, and I see that. I think there's a balancing act, and certainly you have a business in town, and if there's a conflict, you bail. I understand the litigation, you know, Board of Selectmen makes certain decisions as to, you know, fight or settle, whether their claim is valid or invalid, but a lot of that has to do with recommendations of council. So, if you can rise above conflicts, I think it's something you could do if you wanted to do, Bill. But other than that, we gotta do something about the ZBA. If you don't want it, you know, no one's gonna twist your arm and make you do it. But somehow, some way, we gotta fill that vacancy on that zoning board, or we're gonna have unfinished business, and that's not fair to the public that needs a permit. They wanna move a building along, they wanna put an in-law apartment. I mean, life goes on. What are we gonna do?
When's the next meeting?
They meet typically the first Wednesday of the month, so it'd be the first Wednesday of August. Strike that, September.
The 7th.
So that's when they meet. You know, if there's some sort of conflict, or they lack a quorum, they move it up, but they haven't had to do that too often. I think the issue's black and white usually, you know. Someone's entitled to a permit or they're not.
is there a situation where you would turn around and fill that position with a select person and say it's temporary, and don't appoint? You wouldn't appoint the person, you'd put them in there temporarily to fill the slot, not appointing.
Well, I think if you wanted someone to be a voting member, they'd have to be appointed. They'd have to be appointed and sworn in
Appointed
if you're planning to have them vote.
As a temporary, not, I mean, what I'm
I mean,
saying is you wouldn't put them in there as maybe I'm wrong, but.
You could appoint on a month-by-month basis. You could appoint someone through October if you wanted. I mean, you don't have to put them in until next year if you had concerns or wanted someone to be temporary. But I think you'd have to make an actual appointment if you wanted someone to vote on a board.
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I mean, if we made an appointment for the September meeting, you know, other than that, I mean, they're gonna have to cancel, you know? You know?
Right.
Well, we got 4 members, right? What do we got? We got 4, right?
Right, but I think to Mitch's point, if someone comes in just for September, they technically cannot vote because they didn't participate in the prior meetings because that rule has not been accepted here.
Well, if
On
we
that
got- if
case,
we got
but if
4,
it's a
we
new
can still
case, you
vote,
could
but
hear
it's
it.
gotta be unanimous, which, you know, I don't know that that's fair to the applicant. If you have 5, then it's, you know, 3 to 2.
How many people are supposed to be in the committee?
4 rows,
5.
Just 5.
you know, and then we gotta get people, you know.
Ed, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, just for that, maybe if we could appoint somebody just on a temporary basis, get the information out. You know, the sign out front here, the town website, that we're looking for members. We're looking for members for other boards and committees.
Everything.
But maybe we just spell out specifically now, the zoning board, that's a critical thing, and maybe we can get somebody to step up to the plate.
The last few meetings, I mean, we haven't, you know, other than the ongoing, there's litigation going on that takes a long time, but, I mean, the applications that have been coming before the zoning board have been quite simple. It's just application for an in-law apartment. And they've been, for the most part, one and done. They come in, so it's fresh for everybody. It's not multiple meetings going over the same issue. They come in with the plans, the application's complete. It doesn't take too long to go through the issues and deliberate, and, you know, most of the people have done their homework, and they come in and it's already, you know, it ought to be approved because they met the legal requirements. It's that simple. So it's just going through the paperwork. You know, we don't have any strawberry fields, 40Bs in the pipeline right now that go on for a long time. We don't have any of those.
That's
So
fine.
it's all simple, mundane. Somebody wants to put an addition on their house, and it's important to them.
Right.
You know what I'm
So-
saying? And if they were your neighbor, Bill,
Oh, I understand, I clearly, listen, I understand, I clearly understand.
on your in-law apartment, I recuse myself, you
Right.
know?
What I was saying is, I was asking, I just asked Mike if he thought he was gonna be around and he could, just for this next meeting, if Mike would go and do this next meeting, and he said he would. So, for the next meeting, he said he'd try to fill that spot, if we just appoint him for that one meeting to cover that, and we'll have to go meeting to meeting, hopefully someone will step up in the interim.
I mean, I do have some background on some of the things that the board is talking about anyways. But with my
Well, you-
schedule, I just don't know if I'm gonna be absolutely available for that day. If I am local, I'll definitely do it, but I can't say 100% now, 3 weeks ahead of time that I'm gonna be available.
Well, the board is meeting on September 6th, which is the day before the zoning board. So, I mean, you could certainly put out a call for someone to step up in the next 2 weeks, and if not, you could make an appointment that night for the following night's meeting. So hopefully someone will step up in the next
That-
2 weeks and volunteer
Yeah.
to.
Good, by then I'll know.
And can we get some, PR out there that we
Yeah, I can put
definitely
it
need to
out.
get some? Does anyone on the board know of anyone that they'd be interested in, or?
Yeah, Mitch Cronin.
Real estate lawyer.
Mitch can put something on Facebook for us.
Let's appoint him anyway.
There's a real estate lawyer on
Have
conservation.
Opinions,
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, okay.
we just have to get one of those people with these
We talked about
opinions.
nobody wants to step
to
up because
step
of the
up.
ridicule that you get for
Right.
sitting on the board, so.
All right, so we'll leave it that way, the sixth,
So I can put it on our website and,
well, the sixth, if we don't
You
have
can't sit on
someone-
every board.
The state ethics won't let me.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I get on a few more.
All right, so we're good with that subject for now? Okay, so moving forward, we have the Housing Authority request for a bus service through the MRTA.
Mr. Chairman, I asked you to put this on the agenda. We got correspondence at our last meeting. We got a petition from some of the residents at River Pines requesting bus transportation. Let me just read a supporting paperwork here. The residents here at River Pines in Groveland would very much appreciate bus transportation to be arranged at the earliest convenience. The bus could pick us up at the circle in front of the office at 10 River Pines in Groveland, and then proceed with rides within Groveland, Amesbury, Georgetown, Haverhill, Lawrence, Methuen, and Newburyport. It would also, it would be most helpful to all the residents here at 10 River Pines in Groveland. Also, we are wondering if you could put Merrimack, Mass. On the stop list. The Leahy Clinic and the Medical Center in late August 2015 moved from Lincoln Avenue in Haverhill to Merrimack. Some of us go to doctors at the Leahy Clinic and the Merrimack, and the Medical Center in Merrimack. We hope this is not too much trouble. However, it is an importance to the residents of River Pines and Groveland. This was sent to Administrative Services at the MVRTA bus transportation. And also, we had a note from Lynn Stanton from the Council on Aging. They don't support this request submitted by the residents for the fixed bus service at their housing entrance. We consider transportation options currently offered to be useful, comprehensive for residents 60 and over. Current availability is either free through the MVRTA or low cost for the Council on Aging. Along with the Council on Aging van and volunteer NEAT drivers, we offer a transportation program underutilized, available through the MVRTA Merrimack Valley Regional Transit Authority, called Ring and Ride. This ride option, available for free to all Groveland residents 18 and older, provides rides 6.5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. And Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sundays with special appointment. The service is only provided in small towns within the Merrimack Valley who do not have fixed bus route service. So, the Ring a Ride is, my recollection, they have to call up 24 hours in advance. And some of these people, they'd like to be able, their doctor, they schedule a doctor appointment for tomorrow. The doctor says, well, come in today. Now they can't use the Ring and Ride. I just think it's a simple request to, maybe on a trial basis, if we could send a letter of support to the Transit Authority in support of this. Try it on a trial basis. It would be, as its statement says, they could wait right out front of the complex. A lot of those, not, I won't say most, a lot of those people over there, they don't drive. The age is getting older, and they don't have vehicles. This might be a help for some of our senior citizens over there, and they are residents of Groveland, and I think that they deserve our support.
Will this cost us, do you know?
I don't know, because it costs us now out of our state aid to provide the bus service for free. So we're actually charged for the service by who's using it.
And that was brought up the last time when we approved that to, I think it was a $2 fee that they were being charged.
They would be in charge.
And what's that?
They would be in charge.
Yeah, but then we,
Ring and ride?
yeah, but then we, then it was, I think it was at a motion by Selectman McDonald that underutilized. We still have the extra money in there that the state is taking out of our.
Well, it was a minimum threshold, we weren't
Yeah,
exceeding.
we
You
weren't
were paying
exceeding.
anyways, and
And we're still, and we're still not using it according to this underutilized. So maybe we could find out if, that part of that bus transportation, if they bought a bus over here, on their regular route, whether that would come out of some of that money or not, and I don't know how we'd find that information out.
Yeah, I just don't know if they have a regular route that comes through Groveland.
Well, they don't, but they have a route that, ends over at the River's Edge Plaza, just over the bridge, and what are we, mile and a half from there? Maybe just
Are
on a.
they willing to do this?
I don't know.
Well, we could, what I'm looking for is a letter from the selectmen in support that, yeah, we'd like to see it on a trial basis.
So what we need to do is we need to turn around and ask the question to the MVRTA, are they willing to do it? And get some more information on it and
how much?
how much, if it's gonna cost us anything, and if it's free and it's gonna work, I think we should go for it. If they're willing to do it, I mean,
If they wanna add another.
if one person wants to call in 24 hours and use the other one, and someone who wants to use this one, I think the more you give them, the better off they are.
I agree.
I think it would have
So,
to.
well, I think we should find out the information, and see what we can get for more information on it. Can we have Cassandra make some calls and dig into this for us a little bit?
I'm confused. Ed wants a letter, you want questions. What are we doing? Are we writing a letter, or are we asking questions first? I'm just trying to follow what's going on.
Well,
Let's get the information first.
I think if we got the information and we found out all the information, number one, will they come over here? Number two, is it gonna cost us money? And then, once that's done, I think we're good to go. I mean, that's my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think the River Pines has already reached out to Merrimack Valley Regional. They're just looking for the board to support the
Well, I'll
River
support it.
Pines request.
I'll support it, as long as it's,
We don't have the foundation to form an opinion and vote on. I mean, we need to know how much it costs.
right. That's all I was asking.
Whether or not the
That's
transportation
all I was trying to get at, but I.
system
I-
will
must
do
not
it
be
or
letting it come out.
consider it, whether or not there's enough ridership to make it worth their while. How is it funded?
Right.
We have no idea.
I just wanna see if
Well,
you
let's
wanted
get that
more on
information for the
that.
next meeting, and we can address it at
We have
that
to
time.
fact find a little further, and then we can go from there.
Can we also
It's worth pursuing, I agree.
get
with you.
a better understanding of why Ms. Stanton is opposed?
You can. I mean, I think
Well, I
she,
hope to,
I think
because I
she
don't
artic-
understand why.
well, I think she articulated that they have the program, and I think their ring and ride is not as utilized as they'd like it to be, so if you're adding a bus service, it may take away from the availability of the ring and ride.
If they're not using the ring and ride, and if I was the MVRTA and I started bringing a bus over here and they weren't using that, I'd say, you know something, I'm not bringing a bus over there because no one's using it, period. So that wouldn't last long if I was in charge of that route. but-
Right, but I think if you have 1,800 or so seniors and you're having just one bus stop for one specific group, you know, because then the request might be, well, why isn't Nichols added? Why isn't Whitestone added? Why isn't Town Hall added? I mean, I know right here would be Town Hall as well, but I think, you know, you're targeting a specific group of the elder population when the ring and ride applies to everybody. But I don't know. I mean, we can certainly ask her to come in at the next meeting and elaborate on her letter if you'd like.
Yeah, one, they might be mutually exclusive. If one doesn't affect the other, I mean,
Then, you're right.
then one, I mean, if you can have Both.
And
can have your
also,
cake and
maybe,
eat it too.
I know the ring and ride is
We have to
coming
find
out of our, the money that we get from the state. We should find out if the regular bus transportation would come out of that also.
Right, I had that to ask.
So do we wanna have it,
Even if it's done on a temporary basis to see how the ridership is.
so we're gonna do a follow-up with her coming in, or we're just gonna ask the questions and
Yeah,
reconvene?
we'll get the information.
I think
Aye.
part of it, the informational, you know, meeting should be the opposite side. Why is she opposed to it? What are the reasons?
Alright, so, that's fine,
Get all the sides of the story and make a more educated decision.
that's fine with me. Alright,
So we'll ask those questions and ask Lynn to report at the next meeting on why.
or if
she
she doesn't
feels
wanna
this way.
report, maybe is everyone good reporting in a letter form, or whatever?
Yeah, well, she
just
she
so we
did,
know
she
why.
already
Yeah.
addressed that.
Yeah.
More specific
Yeah,
on
she's
it.
usually here
clear.
Monday nights until
Alright,
7
okay.
anyway,
Yeah,
so I can
alright.
have her come over if she's in.
Alright,
I know
sounds
she
good.
seldom has a problem giving us her opinion.
It doesn't talk numbers, right?
No.
It does not.
It's vague.
Right,
Also get some, reach out to the people at River Pines to, have them come in also if they're just weigh in on it.
okay. Are we all good with everything on this subject?
I'm good.
Okay, so, moving on, we have the minutes from the July 25th, 2016, meeting. And that's for vote, so does someone wanna make a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of the July 25th Selectmen's meeting. I'm only at page 1.
Someone wanna second that?
I'll second that.
And any further discussion? And all in favor?
Yep.
Okay. And then we have the minutes from the special meeting on July 20th, 2016. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we accept that.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Mike, any further discussion? All in favor?
Abstain.
All right, we have the
I'm
minutes.
sorry, who made that motion?
Dan.
And did you second it, Ed?
I
Ed made the motion.
Ed
I-
made the-
I thought I did.
And we
had
voted.
motioned, I seconded.
Thank you.
Okay.
Get the players right, just wrong order.
All right, so we have the minutes from the executive session on July 26, 2016. Can I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the executive session meeting minutes, July 26th.
Can I get a second? July 26th,
I'll second that.
Stuck in
Mike?
FinCom.
and any further discussion? All in favor?
Abstain.
Okay. Moving forward, we have discussion on old business, unfinished business, or previous agenda items. Does anyone have anything?
I do.
Go ahead.
New stuff. I had asked if we could get someone from the Board of Health to come in and talk about mosquitoes.
Okay.
Can we?
Can we, or did we? Can we?
Can we? That was samples, can I say it?
I guess, I mean,
Yeah.
Trap set and certain samples, and one of the samples, I guess, was positive for something bad, so I wanted them to come in here and tell us more.
okay, only thing I can tell you is that I know of is I was working down on Center Street and I had a conversation with a health agent type person, and they told me that the, particular traps are set out and they count the number of traps and what have you, and that's how it was discovered and what have you. We were in no harm, there was no harm brought forward, they were in an elevated risk or whatever, but nothing to get alarmed about. So if you wanna have someone come in, I think we're gonna need to have it put on the agenda, I guess.
Yeah.
I wanted to know the location, so, I mean, we got school starts next Wednesday. Not in 2 days, but the following Wednesday, and, you know, if there's a risk of, getting bitten and could affect someone's child, I think people ought to know more about it, and if it's minimal, it's minimal. If there's a certain location you ought to be aware of, I think people ought to be aware of it, so.
So I can say I've had a conversation with the public health nurse who is fully up to date on what's going on. She said there is no concern for residents at this time. She is working with the state. I do know the Board of Health is planning to have a meeting just to discuss protocol in the future if something occurs. But she is actively working with the state and mosquito control, and if anything needs to come further or happen further, she will certainly report on it.
Well,
So.
Can she tell us the location of the positive test?
That I don't know. I don't know.
When we find that out, I want to know, so. The state may not be concerned, but I am.
You wanna know the exact
I
location?
want to know the exact location where the
I
positive.
can't tell you the exact location, but I can tell you the direction it was in,
Okay,
west end of town, that's all I can say. That's what I was told.
what's the west end of town?
That's what I was told, the west end of town.
West end of town.
Figure it out.
I gotta get my compass out,
So I don't know exactly what trap or anything
the
else,
Boy
but,
Scouts.
okay, so you.
Is that my neighborhood? Is it near Shanahan?
I think the west end of town, I don't know. North is that way. West is that way. South and east.
I live on Waker Lane, I'm north, you know.
Did you watch me?
West
Did you watch
Newbury,
me?
yeah. What'd you say,
Did
northwest?
you watch me? I'll do it one more
Your
time.
sundial here.
North
What
is
is this,
that
like
way.
debits
Watch
by the
me.
door, credits by
Watch
the
me.
window? What is
Watch-
this?
Watch me.
Can you stand up and do it? I can't.
Just send them out with a compass, Chairman.
Don't do it.
Your neighbor.
Figure it
Hypnotize
out.
me or what, Bill? You know, what are you doing here?
Yeah, I know.
All right,
In all
I
seriousness,
will ask. I will see what I can find out for you.
if it's disclosable, I want it disclosed.
Well, I do believe there, you know, a lot of information that has come out is highly confidential, so,
That's why I'm being careful about what I say.
yes. So if I can find that information out, I will let you know.
I know they were gonna test this week or next week again. I know that, I had a conversation with the state guys, they were gonna test again, if they found
but-
anything.
but- But when, like, for instance, you know, Mitch comes in and he talks about public information and whether or not, you know, I'm not hiding anything. And if we have the information, you know, if there were positive.
Why would that information necessarily be confidential?
Alarm people.
Because it's public health.
Exactly.
I think if there's something to disseminate, they would. I don't think it's at that level to start disseminating information. I think it's too early in their testing to actually,
But our email didn't say it was classified, like Hillary's emails, right? It didn't say classified. I didn't delete mine, though. 33,000.
All right.
So,
So
in
you'll
all
make-
seriousness, can you ask the question, is
I will
this
ask.
public information? And if so, can we know the location of the positive result?
I will ask.
Okay,
And even though that they say that it was low risk, I mean, we could certainly, if we can get someone from the Board of Health to explain that, I don't know what that means. You know, to me, one is one too many. I didn't know they come in ones. Maybe
Yeah.
they do.
I can say I was out, I think last Thursday, and I saw 3 mosquito trucks, and I know they were all different, because one had 4 tanks, the other one had a lot of tanks, and they were out during the day. I saw them driving around, I saw one up on Bear Hill, and then later on that day, I saw one over by, heading down by St. Pat's Church, past my shop, so they were out.
I see him checking the storm drains.
Yeah. They told them, yeah. Anyway, we won't talk too much about it. So we all good with that, Dan? You happy with that?
I'm happy that we'll pursue it and
Okay.
and find out. If there's a state law that says it can't be released, then I'll run with that.
Okay,
But, can I ask about something else?
sure, go ahead.
Just following up on projects, you know, what's the status of the fire, you know, the veto?
I actually have been working on that today, so hopefully that'll be out soon. That's the next one on my list.
So there's a bid that's gonna go out?
Yep.
And we'll see what the costs are.
Yep. I had revised specs from the fire department for the fire suppression and sprinklers that they wanted in the room. So That's what, I was waiting on that because we don't have sprinklers in this building, so I had to get specific. I don't know how to tie into a non-sprinklered building and what that would cost. So they wrote up some specs for me, and now I'll factor those into the document.
Okay, one more thing. The, fall starts up, it's back to school, not too far off, soccer starts. What's the status of the Shanahan Field bathroom? Was that plumbing, $2,000 or $3,000 adjustment made?
Yeah, it was made right after that, we had that meeting.
Okay.
So a month ago, 2 months, whenever that was fixed right away.
Funds were appropriated, it got done?
Yep.
So that's all done?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
And the Bagnell School, I actually met earlier today, or when I got here with Denise, and we went over the bid for the sprinklers now. If the well pump has been put in, which I think you're waiting back from testing on that still.
Yeah, they're gonna do the water testing on the well this week. They have to submit those for water quality samples to the Board of Health. And they will give me a copy of those, and then we're all set.
Right. and
But
then
so that the
big
irrigation, right, so the irrigation system will go out to bid on Wednesday, the 31st. It'll appear in the central register on the 31st. We will plan to open those on the 14th, and then we should be able to award that right away.
Right, so hopefully we'll have the grass down by end of September, latest the middle of October. It's ready to go, it's just a matter of getting the sprinklers in.
Yep.
Anything else? Go ahead, Ed.
Update on the trash company?
So after our last meeting, I met with Hiltz, who has decided to cancel all of their municipal residential pickup. They wanted to sustain the 3 remaining customers, but after Gloucester pulled out, they had no choice but to terminate all residential service. So they did come in that morning, met with me. After that, I had conversations with Department of Public Health in Manchester by the Sea specifically, because Groveland and Manchester by the Sea made a full week's business. The same drivers, the same trucks serviced Manchester Monday and Tuesday, and Groveland Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Department of Public Health thought that we would be more sellable as a full week of business. So we did both send our specs, we talked to companies, we sent our specs out. I actually asked for bids to be due today. Trash is technically exempt from the full procurement bid process, but I did still put out specs in a bid form. But we are not required to go with the lowest. We can go with the one that makes the most economical sense, that's the most flexible with our residents. So I haven't actually evaluated them yet. I told the companies, because they're all, what they've relayed is they'll all be quite different. Some could do the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, some might be changing that up a little. So I will spend the next few days evaluating the bids we got in, to see what we can afford, and what we can successfully start October 1st.
Do you know if it's gonna, or you don't probably know, as far as like the recycling and the type of truck they pick it up and all that? You don't know it until we finally get the actual contractor in place?
Correct. So one of the problems that we will have is, the problem with Hiltz was the recycling costs. So when all of the municipal contracts were done some years ago, recycling costs were not factored in. So we did not pay to recycle per tonnage. That has changed in the last few years, that the companies are paying per tonnage to recycle. So they're actually losing money on us recycling. So one of the biggest changes will most likely be that in all of these bids will include recycling costs. So we will have to figure out what we have in our budget, and what is now being proposed to incorporate those costs. So it may be that if we have a fall town meeting, we will need to maybe look to appropriate some of that remaining free cash money, or find some other revenue that we can allocate to a trash contract if these prices are significantly increased.
Will you be able to, you'll be able to come to us and discuss that, obviously, the bids and all that?
Well, not really, because, I mean, I will let you know what we determine to be the most economical and flexible,
Yeah,
but
right.
if we wait, we won't, we really need to have a contract before the end of August to be ready for October 1st, because they have to mobilize teams and trucks and equipment. All of our dumpsters are being picked up, so we need all that equipment dropped off here. So time really is of the essence.
So what I was getting at is, if this is gonna be a ridiculous, I'm not saying it is, if it gets to be a ridiculous amount of more money than we're paying now, will we have the conversation with us, even if it's
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, we would have to have a special meeting.
something, because,
But it's not gonna be done by
Contract
the end of the month.
Don't wanna
negotiations.
get surprised.
Ideally, it would be
Right.
by the end of the month.
and as you know, and I'm not saying they're doing it, but as you know, when you have a contract that expires like this, they can kind of use us as an advantage, so.
Yeah, but they're actually very competitive amongst themselves, like, the three companies that I received bids for, I don't know if any other ones have come in tonight, they all really want our business. I've received multiple calls, I've received a lot of inquiries from them, they've asked a lot of questions. So, well, yes, they could drive the prices up because we're stuck.
Right.
I just don't see that all the companies would do that.
Have those bids come in relatively the same ballpark?
To be honest, I just opened the envelopes, I really didn't even look at them yet, because they all include different things.
Is it price per ton, or how do they put it together? How
It's-
do they spec it?
There is a set monthly cost, and then there's a per ton.
And is it up to a certain amount, or it doesn't work that way? There's
Nope.
no.
Do they submit the tonnage weights every month?
Yep, I have a
So every
report
month
of
you get a
tonnage,
Tonnage
yep.
weight slip every month showing.
Yep, and that's what I provided to them for bidding purposes, so they knew what our usage was. I had to provide the number of road miles, streets, how many municipal containers we have, where they are,
So,
things like that.
so maybe tomorrow, if you have time to go through those, you can send us an email to tell us, yes, they're all in line and it's so much more, or it's about the same that we were paying, and then we can start looking at putting that forward sooner than later.
Right.
And you're leveraging that with Manchester by the Sea to get,
I honestly don't know. I don't know if they've bid us as one or if they've bid us individually. They were going to bid us both ways. If they could fit us in as 1 week, they were gonna give us a price on that, and they were gonna bid us individually as well. So I know one company did not bid us with Manchester by the Sea. I don't know about the other two.
and Hills will continue to serve us till the end of September?
September 30th, yes. But they will, apparently on or around September 30th, will come around and pick up their dumpsters and their recycling containers that we have that are their property.
So sooner than later, we need to get this done.
Yes. Yes, because one company has said they need to mobilize additional trucks if we are ready to go for October 1st. So they obviously need time
So,
for that.
if we needed to have a special meeting, we maybe could come in just for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of important, I think.
What do you think?
People would show up. Or the
Rats running
or the
around.
trash is gonna sit there in front of the house.
Right.
Smelly.
Well, it's just,
Okay, does anything else on any old business?
Yeah, I don't
Go
know
ahead.
if it's old business or new business, but I thought the library was coming in today. Is that old business or new business? Does it matter? Denise? No?
I don't know what that is. Well, Dan brought up new business under old business, so I don't know.
I'll follow Dan.
I don't know.
I thought the library was coming in to
What's the
talk about-
difference?
To come in and talk about the emails that we saw about the banking accounts.
Groveland business.
The chairman was not available, and the treasurer of the trustees felt she would not feel comfortable coming in without the chairman.
So when are they coming?
I don't know. I have not rescheduled it. One of their last
When they feel like it? Is that?
One of their last correspondence was they needed to have a discussion at their September 14th meeting, which
Didn't they have a meeting the other day?
they had a meeting last week, yes.
And this
Isn't-
didn't get discussed at that meeting? 'Cause
Isn't
I've
it-
seen, sorry, I've seen emails for how many weeks on this?
It was in July. It's been since sometime in July.
Isn't it as simple as showing a document?
No.
No?
No. The issue is closing a bank account.
I understand, but what I've heard, maybe not talk too much about it, but I heard they are under the assumption they can do that because there was a document somewhere down the road that says they can do it.
No, the document which I've emailed you all about is a city or town correspondence, which comes out from the state, which says that Board of Library Trustees can control funds if a will bequeaths the funds and specifically states that the trustees have control over it. I have asked to, number one, see that will that states that those funds,
That's what I'm
but I
talking
would
about.
still maintain that even if they have control over the funds, all that means is they have the right to spend it, but not withdraw it from the bank account.
Okay.
And I would still hold the line.
They
They
can
cannot
decide how
withdraw
to
money
spend
out of a
Right,
bank account
okay.
without the town treasurer's authorized permission,
So you
is
just-
the line that I
set
would
that
still
up.
hold.
It would just mean that it was appropriated, because it was a
Better to do it.
restricted fund on an unrestricted fund.
Correct, so they could do as they wish, they can spend it as they want, but it still requires to go through the town warrant process that this board has to approve, the town accountant has to approve, and that's what has not been done.
So then, they gotta listen to you. I mean, they just, they can't have renegade bank accounts.
So the treasurer who really, this, I guess that's who we really wanna talk to, right? Doesn't wanna come without the,
She did
Yeah.
not feel comfortable speaking for the Board of Trustees without the chairperson.
are we asking her to speak for the Board of Trustees, or just for her position as custodian of these?
No, hiding's not the
Funds.
way to do it. Can they come into the next meeting? Why do we have to wait till next month? Or any month? No one said when they're coming in, right?
Right. Well, I think, if I understand some of the stuff they've been saying, is the current treasurer has not been on the board. I don't know how many years she's been on the board. But the comment was made that in 1998 this happened, and in 2001 this happened. So I'm assuming that some of this stuff was before her, and she's picking up where she's been told. So I'm guessing that's why she wanted to come in with the chairman, who may have more historical knowledge, I don't know.
Right, but just because this is the way we've always done it, doesn't necessarily
They've got us in,
mean it's
they've got
right.
us in trouble with the audit.
We've seen that movie.
Right,
Well, and it always ended up bad, right?
right.
Titanic sunk at the end of that movie every time.
Once you know something's non-compliant, you have a duty to bring it into compliance, so can't change the past. No one's got a time capsule. So you gave them notice. They have to prove that they somehow have custody of those funds, and, they have to cooperate in the process. So, I mean, they need to come
Can we
explain to you,
send a letter to
Denise,
them?
I'll back you up on that, I mean.
Is there a way to compel them to come before us?
Bill can do it, right?
Well, we asked them to come to this meeting. The request was made, and I do know the chair said, I believe she was out of state, or she might be on vacation. We can certainly send the same request for the 6th meeting.
Are they elected or appointed?
They're elected.
Mr. Chair.
So,
can
you're
we
saying we have
requ-
as much power over him as we did the road commissioner 2 months ago when we asked him to come in?
Yes.
Great.
Can we request that they freeze those funds pending them coming forward and producing something that authorizes them not to freeze those funds?
Yes, I do believe, I mean, I can't, but
Get that play on words, huh?
I would believe they would not take any action on the remaining funds, given what's been going on, but we
Yeah,
can certainly
that'd be-
make that
that'd be
request.
prudent.
Do we know how much is in that account? Not really.
Over 100,000.
Yeah,
Really?
pump the brakes on that. I'd-
Go ahead, Ed.
We ran into this problem a few meetings ago where we couldn't force an elected official to come before the selectmen. Can we, how do we have the right to now do this?
Do we not have oversight to?
The
claim-
chairperson of that board is not elected.
Yes, they are.
The chair is elected.
Every member of the trustees is elected,
Well,
yeah.
I think you're gonna run into the same problem I've already.
No, but, you know, my
What's their
point is
budget?
still, but my point is still the same. We
Really,
can't,
100 grand.
you can't force them to come in. But
What's
as
their
the,
budget?
but as the town treasurer, I have full legal authority over custody and control of town funds.
How about the
These are
treasurer?
town funds,
So,
Treasurer is
plain and
elected?
simple.
so if they don't.
They're all elected. All 9 of them are elected.
So Denise, if they don't cooperate, then you know, you ask nicely, then you go to the next step. You know?
Yes, which would be not so nice. So I've
Which would not
tried.
Be so nice. I mean,
I've been
Try one
accused,
more
but
time.
I've been accused of being demanding and threatening and not promoting good workplace development between the departments
We gotta
and,
reel in the money, all right?
We'll
I
try
mean,
one more time with a letter again, I'm saying, get a letter again, and say that what's been discussed in tonight's meeting again, and we'd like to have the treasurer and the chairperson come to this meeting before we have to go to the next step.
Hugs and
Is
kisses.
there, I mean, is there something that we can take ownership of that?
We have authority to look out for the general welfare of the town. I mean, we have broad authority, and you as finance director, you're supposed to have control over the money. Someone's gotta babysit the money. So, you know, and there's all kinds of statutory authority that, you know, maybe they can be the custodian of it, but like you said, you still have to, you know, follow the procedures, and if they wanna disperse, it has to go through your office.
right. And as I've told them, the issue is not how they're spending it. You know, they're spending it on books, they're spending it on library materials. That's their prerogative. My concern is the process.
Has to be accounted for.
Correct. And
Can't be off books.
correct. The problem is that it's on our book, so it's on our general ledger, so now we don't reconcile because,
So you don't know if the number's good or bad.
In that letter, could you say, is this stretching it too much by saying that we need to comply with our audit? Or-
no, it's in the audit.
Well, if you just say
Unauthorized
that,
bank
we need to
accounts is in
comply
our
with
audit.
Audit, and it's state regulated, and we need to comply, and that's the reason we're doing what we're doing, and that's pretty firm, and it's pretty stating the facts, and
Well,
if
there's
they're
an
not
easy
in
way to do it.
compliance, they're not-
Yeah, there's an easy
whatever.
way and there's a hard way,
Right, they're not in compliance, they're not in compliance, we gotta keep in compliance, we already know that.
If they don't cooperate, what do? You call DOR? What do? You don't wanna say.
Let's find out next week.
Let's find out.
Let's just say it's not pretty.
All right, so moving on, does anyone else have any other old business? Everyone's good? Okay, so moving, we have correspondence from the minutes of the August 8th, 2016 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of corrections on that
Go ahead.
meeting. This was a meeting, if you remember, the last meeting, Mike Wood participated remotely. It should be noted in the minutes when we lost contact with Mike, when he dropped off the
I was in
box.
Florida, I wasn't off the earth.
And also, he was, and I don't know at what point, I don't remember. But also, it should be noted on the motion to adjourn. He wasn't participating at that point. It should be 4 in favor, 0. And not 5.
Make those amendments?
Yep.
Okay. All in favor to that? I am.
I agree.
Okay.
My work.
Go.
That's amended.
Okay. Make those amendments?
Yep.
Okay. We have the minutes from the special selectmen's meeting, formerly executive session 1, on August 15th, 2016. Does anyone have any corrections or omissions to that? Everyone's good? All right, we have the minutes from the executive session 2 on August 15th, 2016. Okay,
Those look good.
all right. Now, moving forward. We have a letter to Kyle Keane from the chairman of the conservation. And I believe I read it and it was a thank you. We have a letter of Jeff Alito from the chairman of the conservation commission, and again, I believe that was a thank you. We have the minutes from the 2011 discussing EMS calls. And then that's it.
We can take those minutes from those meetings that, in 2011, and we can use that in our discussion with the fire chief when he comes before us at his next meeting. I think he's coming at the next meeting on the update.
I think that's on the 6th.
Yes, he's planning to come in on the 6th, actually with his EMS team to talk about medical services.
Okay? In those minutes, I read them earlier. It discussed other people. Should we just turn around and discuss it with the fire chief, or do you want to discuss it with other people that were involved? There's 2 chiefs involved.
Yeah, might as well bring them in. Bring in the fire chief also. I would. Bring in the fire chief, I'm sorry, the police chief.
Oh, okay.
Police chief.
Is that, you want me to ask the chief,
Yeah,
the police department to be here as well?
yeah. It's really a continuation of the discussion that we had at the last meeting.
Okay, so we don't want to take it any broader than that, that's fine. Okay,
So, I'm sorry, do you want me to add a separate agenda item for this in addition
If you're gonna get into
to?
this, you're gonna get into it pretty deeply, and I don't think it's gonna be something that's gonna be,
15-minute discussion.
it's not gonna be a 15-minute discussion, it's gonna be pretty in-depth, and I think that I've asked the 2 chiefs, myself, I asked them to have a meeting with a couple of their department heads, this board of selectmen, and, to have a joint meeting on this, but, I don't know what you guys wanna do with it, if you wanna have a discussion with the 2 chiefs first, and then expend from there, it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I think we
It's
should wait
pretty
until the-
in-depth,
yeah.
and it's gonna be lengthy. So however you guys wanna work.
I got my 2 cents on that. I mean, I thought they were gonna go off after that last meeting and discuss it amongst themselves. I mean, if there's some unresolved conflict, then I think the Board of Selectmen could, you know, be of use at that juncture.
I haven't heard anything,
But-
I haven't heard anything since that meeting. I haven't heard,
But,
Well, didn't we get an email subsequent to that, that they asked us to kind of get together with them? You gave us a list of dates.
Yes, but not all board members were on board with participating in that, so I'd asked Bill, and he wanted to wait to see what the board wanted to do.
well, first off, I mean, the chief's not here, she was here, but I mean, he started that last meeting with, kind of an opening statement to the effect that it wasn't the proper forum.
and that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make the
And-
proper form.
Did he change his mind on that?
I can tell you, I'll tell you that I did have a conversation after that meeting with the chief, the fire chief, and the police chief. I had a conversation with both of them, that I wasn't happy the way the meeting went. I don't think the stuff was resolved during that meeting. And I said, could you get your sergeants, lieutenants, yourself, with the BOS and have a meeting? It doesn't have to be on camera. Criticize me if you want, don't if you don't want. But we can have a workshop and we all can work through this. They both were very much in agreement. And like I said, I didn't hear back from that meeting if they were trying to resolve it between each other or not. I didn't even know that it was that big of a problem, but on the same token, like I said, I don't think this is something we're gonna resolve in a selectman meeting. I don't. I think it's something that people need to be candid, people need to talk, people need to say the right thing, and that's how I think it should be done in a workshop. And I think, you know, Chief Lay was saying it wasn't the right forum, and I think that, I'm not trying to say who's right, who's wrong. I think it should be the right forum, and I think everyone should be able to talk candidly about it.
But if we, as a board, participate in that workshop, now we have a quorum, now we have a public meeting.
It would need to be public. I mean, it still would need to be a public meeting that the public is available to come and sit and,
So even if the police chief met with the fire chief and his guys, he's gotta post that meeting?
no, if the departments meet without the board, they can meet all they want.
That's what I'm
yes.
saying. I thought they could hash it out first. Because again, my issue, and I said it here at the meeting, you know, it's in the minutes, you know, our role's different. Our role is allocation of resources, you know, efficient use of resources. I think most people would agree that you know, and again, I didn't wanna come across as, you know, flip or anything, but most people would agree you don't need 15 firemen showing up at a fender bender. Maybe you don't. But those are some internal issues that could be addressed between the police and the fire department, because that's what they do every day. They go to work. I mean, you know, I look at it from a budgetary perspective, and, you know, I think they need to talk about, you know, what resources and how they're gonna handle their dispatching. I think that's one issue that needs to be addressed, is who gets sent out on a call.
And I don't think, Dan, I think.
So technically, I don't know what I'd add to that equation, other than most people would agree, take everything to the extreme, just for illustrative purposes, okay? I don't wanna be ludicrous, but most people would say you don't need to send the whole fire department 40 guys out to most calls. You know, they pull a bunch of alarms and maybe you need that, but, all right, so I think they would give me that. But you also want a couple of guys to show up if you need a couple guys. So I don't know how they reconcile that, and I leave that to those guys. Somehow figure out how to dispatch the right number of guys. I don't know if you have
Been
it.
going on since 2011
Right,
between,
so they need to address it, so I don't know if you
it's
have.
not happening.
I think they've had
There's
meetings.
5 years of addressing without a resolution.
Well, it needs to happen, so I don't know if they have guys sign up and then the first 5 guys go down there and there's an order. I don't know if it's first
But
in, first out.
you're talking sending 5 guys to a scene, you're talking about, the fire department wants to be dispatched out to all calls, the police don't think they need to go to all calls, it's pretty in-depth,
But
what I'm
can-
saying, it's
can
pretty,
they-
and I
can-
don't think it's getting, I don't know, but I
Can
mean,
they meet initially, because we do have a
I
change.
think they've been meeting, I think they've been having that conversation,
Well-
so maybe we should wait.
One of the emails in here, I mean, it goes back and it's prior to even Chief Lay. I mean, it was the old chief. So, I mean, I don't wanna drag forward old news with good news, cause we do have new people here. I'm not the same guy as used to be on the Board of Selectmen. Chief Lay's not the same as, you know, the prior chief. So we do have new people. Maybe there's new ideas, maybe there's a new way to resolve this. I don't know, Bill, but at this.
I can only say that I've had conversation with both parties, And at this point in time, I don't know, after this last meeting, I don't know, can we write them, have them send us both a letter and see if everything's okay? Maybe everything's fine. I don't know.
Well,
But I thought we left it, they were gonna meet, is that
top
not
of
true?
that page.
What's that?
At the top of one of these pages, Selectman McDonald, it states clearly that it was stated that Fire Captain Lay had spoken to the police department because the firemen weren't getting many call-outs and told the PD that they wanted to be called out on all emergency calls.
What was
So
the
it's
date of that?
April 4th, 2011.
Okay, yeah.
Six some plus years ago.
Yeah, I
So it
mean-
does name him specifically.
Is that still his opinion? I mean, you can quote me from 5 years ago, and maybe I'll say things changed since then. I don't know. I thought the last meeting, we left it at the police chief and the fire chief were gonna get together on this. Has that changed, Bill, Mr. Chairman?
Well, yes,
Yes,
because
they
then the
have.
next day it became the board and the police and fire
Who-
department.
On whose request? Was it Bill's request? Was it the police and the fire chief's request?
I don't know.
Because my attitude is, I'll let those guys do their job. I'm not here,
And
I don't wanna frustrate their job. I want to be, if I can be a it's kinda lead, follow, and get out of the way. If I can help them do their job, I wanna help them do their job. If it's helpful for me to be there, I'll go. You know what I'm saying? But if they don't need me there, what's the point, you know? My issue is,
The point is that we had a meeting, that we turned around and said, well, it's $5,000 over on the fire chief's budget.
On the training.
And that started this whole conversation that rolled into this whole thing, that rolled into too many calls, too many men, blah, blah, blah. And then that's how it all starts.
I know, it
So
morphed into that.
it's gonna come back to, what I'm saying is, it started out, too many calls, budget went over. That's how it started.
Yeah.
Now, are you happy with his response of the being over budget?
Yes and no. I mean, we approved it because what he explained to us, first of all, he didn't have any description in it. So he came in and he gave us the answer on that. So what do we wanna do in the future is we need to prevent overrides. We just can't go to free cash on operating expenses. That's a slippery slope, you know? That's not the way to manage any department's funds. I mean, we need to be disciplined, so somehow, the department has to be strict and disciplined with who they send out on calls and how they spend taxpayer money on calls, you know?
Right, and I think this is, you're rolling right back into the conversation that's been
So
going on.
Is it wasteful government spending, or is it just absolutely necessary public safety and you just can't cheap out on it? You know,
Where do we get that answer?
from the experts.
Can you send a letter to the Chief Lay and to Chief Kamelowitz and ask them their opinion?
Yes, but on what specifically? Dispatch, what am I asking them about?
Is this absolutely necessary public safety driven, or is it wasteful
What are we
government,
talking
you
about,
know? I
though?
mean, of course they're gonna defend
What
it.
are we talking about? I'm confused.
Depend on who you ask, you get a different answer, is my opinion.
Bill,
Right,
in the grand scheme of things, you know, we have a strong chief in town, so what can we do?
let me just say something, Dan.
We can't run the fire department.
Dan, I hear from one, and I hear from the other one.
Yep.
One's not happy with the other one for whatever reason, they're not meshing back and forth right, okay? So, all I was trying to say is, we had this discussion about the budget being whatever. I was trying to, because Chief Lay said it wasn't the right forum. At the end of that meeting, I don't think we discussed anything, I don't think anything was taken care of, and I think everyone went out not knowing what went on. So all I was trying to say is, do we have them come in and talk to get, with us, and have, not only them, but have their, like EMS or whatever, have some more people. I don't know, maybe it's too involved, maybe we should just get a letter, like I just said, ask the two chiefs to write a letter and, on their opinion, I don't know, I don't even know how
You
to.
ought to give them some time to work it out between the two of them.
Okay, that's fine with me.
I thought they agreed to do that, though, that's what I'm unclear on.
Yeah,
Bill.
he's asking if that actually happened,
Well,
Did
then-
that
then-
happen, or was that somehow changed or reneged on?
Well, then let's ask them that question.
because that was
That's
2
what
weeks ago, right?
Does anybody know?
We're coming up on the 6th, I believe, is that right?
Yep,
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have all your questions answered on the 6th.
okay, thank you. So,
Really, all should be here for that.
what's that?
All 5 of you should be here for that.
Okay.
Never miss.
I think we asked for an hour. questions will be answered.
Okay,
All the questions regarding that and other things will be discussed.
all right, so we're gonna postpone this to the, which was it? Sixth. Okay, so moving forward. Anything, so we got through the discussion, all right, so finance director's time.
You guys asked all the questions I was gonna provide answers to,
Okay.
so I'm good.
Okay, selectmen's time. Everyone
I
good?
haven't got anything.
Okay, Dan,
Start at that end of the table.
selectmen time. What do you
Start
say?
with the new guy.
Bill?
Mr.
Okay.
Mr. Ovio.
Great.
Mr. O'Neill?
Couple
Selectman
short
O'Neill.
things.
Selectman O'Neill?
We had our first Volunteer of the Month award today to Miss Claire Walsh. I hope that we can get some more nominations in here so we can have a good choice of candidates for August Volunteer of the Month. That's about it. That's all I have.
Yes, we have not received any others, so,
I'll stop making some up then.
or we go to volunteer of the quarter or something.
I'll nominate Mr. McDonald, Selectman McDonald. He's always.
What?
Selectman of the month.
Select, yeah.
What?
Volunteer
Cleaning
of the
the
month.
latrines or something, what do I get, you know?
Selectman of the month.
started.
Gotta wait till December.
Selectman of the month?
Yeah.
I'll make up something.
All right,
I got something.
go ahead.
School starts next week. Starts on Wednesday, so,
Tuesday for some.
huh?
Tuesday
Tuesday got
for some.
orientation for some.
So everybody's in a hurry to get to work, drive carefully, buses are out, kids walking down the roads. Take it easy, leave a few minutes early, cause you're gonna get stuck behind some bus somewhere, and I get aggravated, I'm sure you do, but you know what, kids gotta go to school. And I don't know if anyone on the school committee's listening, but, you know, I'm just, you know, one member of the Board of Selectmen here, but I'd really appreciate it if school would start after Labor Day. I mean, I don't know when it changed to starting in August, but the best weather of the year is the last couple weeks of August. And you go to a school,
For 3 days.
no, they go Wednesday, Thursday, they got Friday off for a long weekend. I mean, what are you gonna accomplish other than, you know, here's where my seat is, I'm sitting next to this kid, I don't like the kid across me, all right, there's my friend over there. What are they gonna accomplish in 2 days?
It satisfies the
So,
requirement.
I'm gonna, you know, shout out to the teachers union, knock it off. I mean, God forbid you work in June till June 22nd, you know? Let's get the kids back to school after Labor Day, the first Tuesday after Labor Day.
I'm gonna make a motion, they go for 2 Saturdays
No,
during the
no,
year.
we have no power here over those people, but I
Two
make a
Saturdays during
motion,
the year.
I make a motion that school doesn't start until the day after Labor Day.
Send them 6 days a week.
You know,
6 days a week.
I mean, it's America.
A couple Saturdays will never kill them. Anyway, all right, so,
Look at
Thank you.
some of the private schools go Saturday mornings and they're off on Wednesday
I
afternoon.
gotta say that, and again, you know, I'll disclose that I have 3 kids in the school system, so I'm conflicted, but, you know. It
all
affects
right,
everybody.
so are we all set, everyone's good? Good. So it looks like 9:02, maybe?
Sure.
We get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 9:03.
9:03, seconded,
Second it.
all in favor? Okay, good.
Do it early.
Yeah, by 2.